Hello. Hello, everybody. What's going on? Oh, I'm seeing people say I was late. I was late by like, a minute. Damn. I almost got on time today, y'all. Sorry. I was eating a little lunch. Drank my seltzer. No triple seltzer this stream. We will not be burping into the microphone nearly as much, but hello, everyone who's here nice and early. What's going on, Francisco? Francisco, he's back. The GOAT is back. What's going on, bro? Zerofication is here. Want to shout out Tombstone Actual. Very kind words before the stream even began, so I really do appreciate that, bro. Omnisa is in the building, as is Picto. We got the OG crew here, man. Red Bandit, what's going on? We got everyone here. What's going on, guys? Thanks for making some time today. Sir, there's nothing to really talk about today. I don't know, bro. Slow news week. It's been real slow lately in general. All right. Tyler Wood, good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome in. Oh, man. Wow, just so many of you. Thanks, guys, for being here. This is awesome. Cost Frost, hello. I love you always, Maddie. Thank you. Anal Thunder in the building. Let's go. My favorite name in the chat. Oh, what's going on, Elijah? What's going on, Jordan? Quail is here. He says, here for once, Quail. I feel like you're usually here. Master Unk returns with poor tidings. Yeah. I'm at that point now, yeah. Yeah, just I'm unking it up. Everyone's starting to call me an unk. I turned 31. That's just who I am now. Oh, Graham, thank you for the shirt love. Yeah, I got this from a thrift store. I like it because it's, I mean, tie-dye works for me pretty well. I've never been a big tie-dye guy, but between this and my Carnage shirt, I'm starting to think I got something going on there. But this is like one of those kind of heavyweight shirts, but it's also like an XL, so it's got some room. It's very breathable. I lost power over for 3 days, so I've just been on my light clothing wave. Even though I just called this heavyweight, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's very airy, but yet like the material's thick, but it's breathable. I don't know. Very unique shirt though. Highly recommend. Pondo, I'm glad you love defining Duke. Appreciate you, dude. Break out the seltzer. Rudy, not today. I'm trying to spare chat. Y'all saw my nastiest stream. I do have some tissues here, so if I have to get up and blow my nose, I don't gotta peace out. I still have a bit of a cold, but we're not nearly as bad as we were before. I'm in like phase 2 of the cold, right? There's the blowing your nose phase, and then there's the, without being nasty, the spitting it out phase. That's where we're at right now, so I will not put you all through that. But yeah, seltzer's not going to happen here. We already went through the nastiest Maddie stream of all time, so we've just got some plain old water here. So don't worry, don't worry. Yeah, New York weather has been crazy, Francisco. Just the storm tore us up, bro. It's been bad. Let me catch up with some of our supers coming in here. Thanks, guys, for supporting the stream here. South of Profit, yeah. I don't know if it made. Oh wait, that's smart. That's smart. I was about to say, like, I don't know if it made profit, but I get we're in reverse. That's a good one. That was terrible that I almost missed it. Oh, thank you, Joey Lupo. I appreciate it. It's good to see you as well. Thanks for being here, man. Thanks for supporting the streams. Anal Thunder. There he is. I noticed Asha didn't mention Obsidian Entertainment in her post on X. Did they get by unscathed? They did not. We'll talk about them a lot this stream. We have so much to unpack today. So much to go through. Obsidian lost a quarter of their staff, according to Kotaku. So they did not get by unscathed. It didn't get by unscathed. They got hit really hard, as did ZeniMax Online. And so this is what I talked about in my video yesterday on the subject. I said there's still a lot to be answered here. Like, at face value, some stuff is, like I talked about, the studio closures not happening is better than a lot of us expected. But when it comes to these other Xbox first-party studios, their fate and how they manage these IP now is going to say a lot more. So we'll see. But Obsidian's going to be a big point of the conversation here. Keep fighting the good fight, Maddie. Appreciate your live streams and videos. Thank you. Thank you, dude. Yeah, I've just been in my bag lately, dude. Between what's going on with PlayStation and Xbox, like, I'm just in this zone where, like, we're basically taking both to task. It's crazy, bro. Just like both sides. We need a new competitor desperately, it feels. Valve, where are you? Jordan, thank you for becoming a member. Shout out to Zensha also becoming a member. I appreciate you. And speaking of Zensha and Quail, thank you for becoming members, guys. Zensha wrote, half of id Software is gone is confusing. 14 layers of telephone management. Man, id Tech is such an incredible engine. I pray they don't end it. I think My read might be incorrect. That I thought Bethesda might, or I'm sorry, Xbox, Jesus, might be leaning more in the direction of like more proprietary engines, because they would maximize profit on those games made on those engines instead of like giving a piece of the pie to Unreal Engine, for example. But I'm starting to wonder if you're gonna fire like your entire coding staff on id Tech, then vibe coding AI, is that the play? I don't know, bro. Little worrying. So yeah, the 14 layers of management, that had to go for sure, but id, very, very concerning, considering that it's one thing if the leak from Schreier said Fallout and Elder Scrolls, we'd be like, okay, everything's funneling through those two. But since Doom and Quake are on the menu, like, what the fuck are you doing firing half the team that would be responsible for that? I'm starting to worry a little bit, but yeah, Picto just said it in chat here. I'm starting to worry a little bit about Asha leaning into AI. I think that is the inevitability that a lot of us are fearing, but we don't have the context or the proof on. But I do think going into... There's a good argument for that, and there's also a good argument that they're going into more standard engines like Unreal Engine, but they'd be coughing up money that way. But making Doom on Unreal, I don't know, dude. I don't know. We will see. We will see. Things are certainly unraveling here, so give it time. We'll get answers, bro. Doom Unreal Edition incoming. Tyler, I hope you're wrong, bro. I'm not an Unreal Engine hater, by the way, to be clear. Like, I think defaulting to hating an engine is like, you've got to... There's more to it than that. There is developer talent at play, but there are certain games that just, like... I'm very curious what Halo will feel like in Unreal Engine, you know? Granted, I think that's like one of those kind of merging projects. I think they're using some of the Blam stuff, if I remember correctly, but my point being is, like... Unreal Code of Paint on Oblivion, you still had the look, you still had the feel and the jank, but the look is a big part of it too. And that's where good art direction kicks in. Thank you, GX Code. I'm glad you loved the PS3 digital video. Yeah, we had a lot to share there. You know, with all the buying guides I did on Retro Rebound, it was very tempting to do another one, be like, here are the games I'd say you'd buy. But I was like, let me just link all of those in the description and then just go in on the digital library and everything that you should buy, from classics to like remasters that are digitally available only, like Ratchet Deadlocked HD never got a physical release, like that sort of stuff, just for people who want to like buy that stuff and hang on to it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, dude. Elder Scrolls game made by Obsidian could be cool. Yeah, I would be interested to see them. Obsidian's future is really going to be interesting because we always talk about them doing Fallout, but they did just release a fantasy first-person game, and you could argue that they could make something like Elder Scrolls, although, I mean, Avowed I thought was, you know, like their worst game. I compared to everything else I played from Obsidian, I enjoyed Avowed significantly less. So for me, personally at least, I would be less enthused by this, but with at least Outer Worlds 2, like that was great, you know. Barring the writing in some places, the actual gameplay and the flow and the loot, they did a great job in those departments. The things that make Fallout tick are more apparent in that game than the things that make Elder Scrolls tick being available in Avowed. Like, even the people who gas up the combat, sorry, Cog, I'm not trying to come for you, bro. Every time I say that, I'm like, oh god, I'm coming for my co-host. But I do think the combat in Avowed is so easy to break, and the armor system in Avowed was fucking terrible, so the way it was balanced felt awful. I really do feel like that game just, yeah, I wouldn't want an Obsidian-made Elder Scrolls game. I'd be open-minded to it if it got announced, but like if we're in the pitch room and we're talking about things, I'd be like, yeah, no, not that. Just Say No to the Tech Bro says, I'm 45 and was mostly digital gamer for years, but you've convinced me to go physical whenever possible. Your points on culture really hit home. Thank you. I mean, that's awesome to hear, dude. Yeah, like, it's never too late. So I've been trying to tell people. I put up on Twitter when PlayStation decided to break their silence, I was like, they really thought we'd forget. And there's a lot of like digital people who feel very emboldened, and obviously it's mixing with fanboy culture too. But a lot of people are trying to laugh at folks like myself, you, and others who are trying to fight. And it's like, yeah, I get it. A lot of us feel like we may as well just roll over because these companies are just waiting for us to shut up. But like, this is a cascading effect. If we can stop PlayStation, Xbox may not move forward with digital only. Especially because we already heard rumors now that Xbox isn't really certain about whether or not they want to include a disc drive, which is maybe they're waiting this thing out. So if you can tip PlayStation over, it'll tip Xbox over, and physical lives on for another generation. Same thing with Nintendo, although Nintendo, given like the game key card situation, they're already veering in one direction. But I do feel like these things are important, and it's just, you got to use your voice. So, and your wallet. The wallet's the most important part. Like, I unsub from PS Plus. I'm trying to support the things financially that I care about to at least communicate a message. Like, I'm not telling people full on boycott Sony because they're so connected to everything in gaming. I think that's really impossible to accomplish. Same thing with Xbox. But do you need to give them free money every month? No. Pull out from PS Plus. Buy games physically where you can that make sense for you, that you care about. Doesn't mean you have to buy everything physical, but I think that shit matters, dude. So I appreciate those who listen and those who are open-minded. It's certainly not, it doesn't have to be everyone's way of life, but I do think right now is a time where we could actually make change. And it's on us as players in a lot of ways to invoke that change, unfortunately, because we see what's happening with Sony and Destiny and how they're just trying to like move on from that. Even though the choice is very obvious. So, yeah, it's a bit tricky, but I appreciate those who do listen. And certainly if you're open to physical games on the retro market, it's a good time to get in before prices really go up, because then there's no alternate option if PlayStation holds strong here. Renegade Eagle said, do you think we're looking at the start of an industry collapse? You think we'll ever get back to how gaming was in the late 90s, early 2000s? Yeah, like, I hate to use the Xbox term, but there is a level of resetting that feels like is occurring, and I think what's going to happen is the cycle's going to begin again. There's going to be some turnover, but we're going to watch as the industry goes from this post-COVID, right, where, like, they invested a lot, and we're still seeing the shrinking from that combined with AI, which has resulted in spending going like this. And I think once we learn how to manage as a industry like this, especially now that transmedia is very popular, it could make us a little bit more efficient, but I do think eventually it's going to go like this again. And it might turn into just the natural wave of the industry expanding and contracting, and those who survive, as in companies who survive, are the ones who anticipate these trends, but also the ones who understand that game development does not need to be this Hollywood-level production type investment where it's hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, what, Mecha Chameleon, that game looks super unappealing to me, but $5, 15 million copies sold. You don't need much nowadays if you get a hit on your hands. You know, obviously there's a difference between a hit and like a solid success, but I think some people are going to learn to be okay with a solid success and build their business around solid successes, like an Obsidian. That's how they've talked about their budgets for their games. And when you do get a hit, it's meteoric for you. It changes your whole situation. It's a big reason why I think Obsidian was able to go on and do like 4 projects at a time and actually release games, from Pentiment to Grounded and, you know, Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed. Obviously, some of that was part of a poor process. But yeah, to answer your question, like, I do think there's a level of an industry collapse that, you know, could be happening. You know, it's the signs are kind of there. You know, there's stuff where the bottom's just naturally falling out. Like, Xbox could not manage all of these teams. That was apparent for a while. We gave them our trust. They couldn't do it. Ubisoft is another really great example here. Ubisoft had so many employees. The bot, like thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, like more than most. That bottom had to fall out eventually. Just, you know, there can only be so many customers is how I describe it. THQ Nordic was another one. They bought so many developers, and a lot of those developers and publishers, like, they cashed in, dude. They got tons of money off of it. But like, we see the amount of overhaul that THQ has gone through. So I do think games as a whole, when it comes to a business, is like your eyes can get bigger than your stomach. And it's understandable. I think it happens to both developers and publishers. I think there's big profit potential if you swing hard. And if everything works well, the big if on that, can result in, you know, a lot of money made for these publishers, which can change their fortunes. And I think for developers, the thing that undoes a lot of them, from what I read online, even great teams like Yacht Club Games, is they have a great success. They create a roadmap, and usually it's the 2 games at a time that gets a lot of these teams. I'm reading a lot of that. Like, Halo Studios has stalled out as a really great example, and they've been working on multiple projects. Like, we just heard Ecker was canceled. There's the Halo remake, which really isn't coming from them. There's apparently another Halo multiplayer project. There was a Halo mainline game. Like, there's too many, and teams get split into factions. Progress stalls out. Doesn't really work the way that I think a lot of us as creatives envision. And so it's better just to consolidate all your resources into one project at a time and try to figure out how to accelerate one project throughout a couple of years rather than like spending 4 years working on 2 games. Maybe you could do like two games with 1.5 development cycles. So it's a little bit shorter and it requires a little bit more focus, but you can get more output. Great example of this in the AAA space, I think at least, is CD Projekt Red. I look at them and what they've been doing with The Witcher 4. They've spent a lot of years building what is clearly an asset library for The Witcher, and they're doing this on Unreal Engine. And what they're probably hoping to do, since they want to release Witcher 4, 5, and 6 within, 6 years, I believe, it's very clear what they want to do is take that existing asset library, make more, I would call, minor additions to the game itself, as in like maybe a couple new systems here or obviously some new characters, but otherwise reusing your library to get more frequent entries out. And I think it's companies like CD Projekt Red that are going to get rewarded quickly, because I think nowadays with there being so many content options, companies that used to go away for a while outside of Rockstar, and they come back a while later, I think they're forgotten. I won't name the team I was thinking of with that today, but I was going through my Discord, and I'm friends with a couple of devs, and like there was one team that I hadn't spoken to in a while, and I was like, oh man, like I kind of forgot about them. And I'm like very in. And so if I'm thinking on that level, then I can only imagine how some customers and players have felt about maybe that team in general, right? And so with that in mind, I think it's important for companies to really focus on, with today's content saturation, is how do you utilize, like if you're a CD Projekt Red, you have a massive IP. How do you take The Witcher and keep it relevant? It's like, I think more frequent releases would go a long way. So that was a lot, but yeah, dude, like certainly we could be veering towards a collapse, but I think there are some companies who are going to navigate it pretty well. And I think CD Projekt Red is, or at least the best I can see. I mean, I'm certainly no business guru, but I look at what CD Projekt Red's doing. I think to myself, you know what? I think that's at least a good chance to take. I've seen a lot of companies take stupid risks on things, and this seems like a smarter risk. Like go in on one project, spend a long time building that, create the asset library, and then use that asset library to make more games. I think that's what players want, maybe, you know, just like more games. I think players can be patient for like an entry, but they don't want to get like Witcher 4 and then wait another 7 years for Witcher 5. Bethesda Game Studios, I'm looking at you. So yeah, that's a lot, but that's kind of how I feel about a crash in general. Hopefully that answers your question, Eagle. Chief Adams says, in my opinion, Xbox should have Obsidian work with Bethesda, have Obsidian write the story and characters while Bethesda designs the world and gameplay. I don't know how I feel about Obsidian writing right now. I want to give them the benefit of doubt because they've been so good for so long, but they have John Gonzalez back, for example, who are like, oh, Obsidian writers are on him. Like the guy who wrote New Vegas is still there now. Like he came back. So I want to give them benefit of doubt. Bethesda writing for a lot of people is pretty awful. I call it more spotty, hit or miss. Like I think there are some diamonds in the rough type moments, even in games like Starfield. It's just they're very few and far between. So they've got potential, but it's just so scattered out. But I agree that Bethesda focusing on world and gameplay would be good. Bethesda did say in their letter they need to focus on like more company-wide collaboration. So I think this is happening. We'll see, though. The Sacred Boys are all about being sad, but the true bleakness is on DD. At least you guys won't ever run out of news to talk about. Love from Honduras. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate you. And very true. Yes, we try not to run our business off of sadness, but it has been a lot to talk about, and this week will be no different. So I'm sure things will slow down a little bit in the coming weeks, but then things will pick back up in August as game releases start to ramp up. Oztane, thanks for watching since December 2013. I appreciate you. Rotating Chip said, let's be real, bro. Bethesda kind of sucks. Dude, I'm not saying they're great. Yeah, I think when people see me give some level of grace to Bethesda, it's because I still love them or think they're excellent. It's more like I think that there are some things they can do well. Like, I don't think they're literally useless. You know, I think also it's inevitability. Like, I think they have to be involved. Like, they own these IP. They control these IP to some extent. They're stewards of them. So if you're going to involve Bethesda, it has to be in the best way possible, is all I'm saying. We forget how much gaming contracted in the PS360 era. I actually am not super familiar with this. I'd love some education on it, but I'm more familiar with today's, like, I think, like, PS4 and on. But contracting in the PS3 and 360 era, how documented is that? I'd love to know some more. Just wanted to show some support. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate that, dude. Kyle, what's going on, bro? Matty, big fan here, but not too long ago, you said it was pretentious to boycott Nintendo products when the Switch 2 came out because of how they treat their fans' key cards and how strict the Switch 2 rules are. This is a fair call out. I get where you're coming from here. When I say pretentious, I suppose what I'm saying is like Nintendo rolling over is a bit of a different story, because I at least think with key cards versus the actual carts themselves, you could still show Nintendo where the physical is valued. And that's why their investors were bringing to the table things like, hey, you know, look, like people are upset about game key cards or the cart size. Are you going to do more of those? How are you going to support that? Because some games that were going to game key cards, the issue with that was the cartridge size was so big that some games didn't need it. Or was it so small? I'm misremembering. I apologize. But it goes one way or the other. And so some companies were just defaulting into game cards, key cards, because it didn't make sense for them. When I say boycotting, I say also that's tough to do because some way, somehow, you're eventually reaching their pockets, even if you don't know it. And I think there are more strategic ways to spend your money to just show, to send a message, especially with people like me who have a platform. I can say I spent my money on X and explain why, and that might reach someone at Nintendo, and that might influence the data they read. So I think when I say like a boycott can be pretentious, it's like an outright not spending on anything, whether it be PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo, you can go for it. I just think eventually you'll end up accidentally giving them money if you're playing video games. Like, even if you're like, I'm going to go buy all Xbox games on Steam, Xbox doesn't care, right? They're still going to get your money a little bit. So that's a little bit of my thought process there. I can understand how it would come across a bit inconsistent. The last part about how they treat their fans' key cards, how Switch strict 2 rules are, part of it also is that I think Nintendo fans don't have as strong of a spine. And when I say that, I mean like the fanboys who show up for like every Pokemon game. I mean, look at what happened with Legends EA. Like, I think the proof's in the pudding, or that they're going to happily sell to you Fire Red and Leaf Green GBA ports $20. That's kind of my idea behind it, is like, you can't say Nintendo, fuck you guys for game key cards, and then buy literally all of their first party stuff, including re-releases. That's kind of my thought process there. So hopefully that makes some sense, but I appreciate the call out here. Opinion on emulation, asks Beyond the Dune Sea. Not a fan of the high seas, but it seems like these communities are doing more for preservation and ownership than the big players. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's a way to preserve games, like, I think if companies aren't going to do it, fans are going to take it into their own hands. And that's why I always try to communicate on my company, Jesus Christ, I'm like reading the super chat at the same time as talking. That's why I try to communicate on my channel that there's a way for companies to make money and preserve games. That's the whole idea. Like, I'm not trying to tell them, like, bend over backwards for what I want. If you're going to get rid of the PS3 and Vita stores, like, okay, fine. I don't expect you to keep those up forever. But those games have to be made available. They should be. Because I will buy them. That's all I've been trying to say this whole time. Like, PlayStation hasn't lost me as a forever customer, because if they support the things I'm into, I will give them money. So for me, if they are worried about emulation and they want to take it down because fans are freely giving their stuff away, okay, go right ahead. Just let us buy it and officially own it. That's all people want. That's the main reason emulation exists, is because we can't play stuff on current platforms and because these companies won't spend resources on it. So, you know, I don't blame people for going this route at all. Zensha said, did you see the co-founder of Arcane, Rafael Colantonio, ask how much the moment he found out it could be for sale? Mass respect to him. Yeah, I did see that. We'll talk about that as well. I do think there's a level of him just fucking around and finding out, but I also don't know how much money Rafael's got in the bank. If he does, that'd be, and he could buy Arcane, that'd be sick. Rion, thank you for the super chat, dude. Yo, Matty, glad to be back. Missed the last one. Have you been seeing all the Skyrim RP gameplay? Can't believe we've gotten to this point. I have not, but that sounds wild, bro. It doesn't surprise me, though. I mean, people are just trying to find fun ways to play Elder Scrolls games right now, given that, like, when are we going to get 6? Another 2-3 years, maybe? It's going to be ridiculous. Woo boo. Thank you for your super chat, dude. Yo, Matty, glad to see you on stream. So, with id Tech, tell me what you actually think about this. COD has their own IW engine. Maybe they're focusing on that for now with shooters. Fun fact, it was actually based on id Tech 3 around the Quake 3 era. Yeah, that's not a bad... All their coders are gone, apparently. So that goes from, like, gameplay to graphics and so on. It's possible they could be funneling all of their first-person shooting operations through Call of Duty stuff, but then... Okay, let's go to this hypothetical. Let's say Halo, Doom, and COD all funnel through this engine, right? Okay. Do you now have these three franchises feeling very similar? I know the engine doesn't define the feel. A lot of it's the mechanics and whatnot, but like in the fine-tuning of it. But I'm just thinking, generally speaking, how this could kind of lead into that. You know, people talk about, let's use an example of an engine people hate, Creation Engine, and how it just has like a clunky feel to it for a lot of folks. Like, even down to Starfield, which is some of their, quote, best gameplay, end quote, it still feels pretty clunky. So, I think this is a good theory. I think it's worth thinking about for at least one of their franchises. I don't know if this is going to be for, like, all of them, as I'm theorizing. The fact that the old id Tech was based on it is interesting, too, but... There's clearly some type of consolidation happening where they're going to funnel some games through the same engine. I can't imagine why you get rid of so many people who work on id Tech and just keep, like, the creatives, or at least some of the creatives, unless the plan is to have them build their games on something else. That's the only thing I can think of. But id Tech is, like, so important to the industry. That would be brutal. So that's a big coin toss. Good thought, though. Rudy the Goat. Thoughts on the rumor Activision is playing an advisory role on Halo, possibly even going under their umbrella? Yeah, I heard. I think it was Jez said this. Man, what a mix. Like, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't like Call of Duty much, but I also think Halo's run like shit. This is the... I don't know if there's even a good phrase to describe this one, because it's not even like a rock and a hard place. Like, yeah, you'll get more Halo, but will Halo be better because of that? Same thing that goes... I've said this about all these franchises. Like, yeah, we're about to get more Fallout. We're about to get more Elder Scrolls. But is that going to make these games, like, better? Like, are these games going to be good? So, when it comes to Activision playing an advisory role on Halo, what does advising actually entail? Is it, like, managing them? If so, then maybe they could use that help. Maybe. If advising is like, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should monetize this way. Oh, dear God. I think people forget. Thinking about output, I think people forget just how fucked up Activision really is. I don't know if I'd like it. Who do you think bought Undead Labs? 2K comes to mind. I think 2K, because 2K was in on the Initiative and Perfect Dark. And if they were looking at that, I think they're going to look at State of Decay, and I think they are going to look at Hellblade. For whatever reason, Hellblade, I don't know, but State of Decay, I could see. What do you think of the previews for Blood of Dawnwalker? I haven't seen them yet. Everything I've seen for the game looks excellent, though, but I haven't seen these yet, Juan, so I apologize. I don't have much to say on this, bro. But I am sure I will love it. There is no doubt about that. Uncharted Wolf in the building. Let's go. The misinformation around physical games has been crazy. Still having to hear it's just a key and I'm digital so it doesn't affect me. Yeah, the first one really, like the former in that conversation, I hear a lot of that. Like, it's just a key. Like, I've seen people, like, come into my mentions on Twitter and be like, just like, don't you get it? It's just a key. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're the uninformed one. And that's the sad part about it all, bro. There's so many people who are they just drank the Kool-Aid for years, and we are paying the price now. For people like me and others who have spent years saying, like, nope, it's not just a key. There are times where that's very much the case. There are times like Cyberpunk where you don't want to buy the PS4 1.0 physical copy without updates, of course. But there aren't countless examples like that right now, you know? A lot of these games shipping in their 1.0 do have some bugs, but they're fine. And most of them... Let's just throw this in here, get re-released with all their DLC afterwards. Again, Cyberpunk Ultimate Edition. Now it's a great complete in-box copy. You know, that's how it goes. So, yeah, I think the whole idea of it just being a key, just like, I don't know, bro. And someone said, even if it was a key, it makes it resellable. There is that, too. We're at the point now where, like, people are okay with licensed keys. Because they're like, look, at least I can sell it. At least it gives me another place to buy a game. There's another. I mean, that's another whole can of worms. So sidetrack. All right, Naruhino, let's see what you got here. If you could give the old school Fable morality and body change based on the skill tree systems to a different IP, what game would it be? Where would that fit? BioShock would be interesting. Seeing them kind of mess with like the choices that you make with like the little sisters and how that changes how you look. Body changes. I think that'd be cool. Even though you don't really see your character in BioShock, I think that'd be awesome. That'd be my pick. That's a good question. What data I could drag up game production down 50 to 80%? I'm sorry, Quail. I don't know if I don't know if I understand what you're saying here, bro. Someone can help me out in chat. What data I could drag up game production down 50 to 80%? Someone help me out. I might be misreading this. But thank you, Quail, for supporting. Thanks, guys, for being here. Colin keeps bringing up Mind's Eye. Oh, Colin, please don't. No one gives a fuck about Mind's Eye. Andy, thank you for your support here. Hi, Matty. Watching your video for 11 years, I found out that Driver San Francisco got delisted from Steam Store. Still in my library. Will PlayStation games remain in your library after being delisted? Yes, they will. So a good example of this is Marvel Ultimate Alliance from your earlier Super. Oh, Quail, I'll go back and read that. Thank you for clarifying. So yeah, they will remain in your library. For example, when Marvel Ultimate Alliance PS4 edition got delisted, I had already bought that and it's in my digital library. I still have it, so I can grab that whenever and download it and play it. That's my main way of playing it, outside of the 360 version with all the DLC on the disc. But yeah, your purchases are good, which is why I made videos on Retro Rebound saying like, hey, if you're going to buy things, I have a bunch of buying guides on Retro Rebound, and then like, here's a digital buying guide. And those are all the things I'd personally recommend that you stock up on. Games that are either limited to the PS3 digitally or physically, obviously being your best purchases right now. But if you're worried about a digital library, it's good at least right now. But what Sony has shown with their movies is that if a deal that we don't know about expires, they will revoke that from your digital library. So nothing's truly permanent. At least with digital, they'd have to break into your house. So there's that too. Let me go back to Quail's super chat here. I didn't want to forget that. Jordan Milan, thank you for your super chat. I know it said thank you for your donation, but I appreciate you. Oh, Quail said, how much of these losses are middle management? And then he followed that up by saying, oh, we forget how much gaming contracted in the PS3 360 era. And then he followed that up by saying what data I could drag up down 50 to 80%. Wow. Okay. Jeez. Yeah, that's quite a drop. Yeah. 50. Oh, wait. Are you saying down 50, 80%? Or are you... Either way. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. Can't wait for Star Wars Zero Company. I feel like news surrounding the game has been few and far between. Yeah, it has been a little bit quiet, I feel, for a game that looks so good and is apparently coming out next month. Maybe I'm not paying close enough attention, though. It's been a little quiet. Yes, game production. Okay, Coel, thank you. I appreciate that. Would you skip PlayStation... Wait, hold on. I almost lost that. Where is it? Would you skip next-gen PlayStation for Xbox if Xbox confirms disc drive and physical games? Certainly, it would become my primary platform rotating shift. As I talked about with the PS6, like I feel confident PlayStation will listen to reason and change some form of their strategy to accommodate people like myself and others. I just can't imagine... I'm also coping a little bit. I just can't imagine it. But yeah, if a company like Xbox is like, yeah, we're going to do physical games. We're going to support them on the disc. Like, oh, I'll be insufferable. People think I'm annoying right now, but I'll be fucking insufferable, bro. So, yeah, man, like, that would really put me into like a zone where I'm like, oh, let's go Xbox. Come on now. I agree with the chat. There's a I don't know how strong of a chance there is that we get a disc drive for the next Xbox. You know, it's just the benefit of consoles was the affordability, like that I would spend $500 and get all my gaming needs accounted for. I wouldn't have to upgrade everything. But since consoles are now getting more expensive, you may as well just learn the whole trade on PC. That's kind of where things have gone. But man, do I hope we get back to traditional console gaming. That'd be nice. This is a good question. Maddie, how would you solve game keycard issues for very large Switch 2 games? Multiple carts. My answer probably isn't actually a solution, but optimization helps compress the file size quite a bit for a lot of these games where, I mean, when you look at what Nintendo's able to accomplish with games like Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 1, it does show anything's possible. Xenoblade is another great example of that from Nintendo's first party. For the others, I think they also would be more incentivized to focus on optimizing early and optimizing often, especially Switch 2, I think being a target platform for a lot of these companies. They can benefit from that. But that would be the main thing I would think of off the rip here. Otherwise, game keycards, and I'd have to go study back up on the amount of memory options. I guess I'll look it up right now. How many memory options are there for game keycards? Let's see what comes up here. This was a year ago. So yeah, here. Let's go back to this here. This is from Video Game Chronicle. Nintendo will offer alternative to Switch 2's controversial game keycards, the dev claims. Nintendo is reportedly introducing smaller size options, which could potentially reduce the number of games that opt to release on controversial game keycards. They've attracted criticism since Switch 2 launched because they contain a digital activation key for the game rather than any game data. So far, the vast majority of third-party Switch 2 games are keycards, with a few exceptions, because there's only one card size available. So that would be another part of the solution in general. I know you were talking about bigger games like a GTA, which I just don't know if they'd ever come to the platform, maybe, but... however, this could change if Does It Play claimed earlier this week Nintendo's planning to introduce new card options for 16 and 32 gigabyte options, corroborated by developer Eileen, which announced on social media the upcoming R-Type game would now ship on the whole card instead of the after Nintendo announced two smaller cartridge sizes. Einon said... I said Einon. I'm thinking of Einon, sir. Einon said R-Type Dimensions 3 would thus no longer be released as a game keycard and retail for €10 more. To account for higher production costs. Developer issued a correction that there is no official announcement or confirmation of Nintendo concerning cartridge storage capacity, and that any reference to specific storage sizes should not be interpreted as official information. Yeah, they slipped. That's so funny. So yeah, I guess back to this question here, to solve this, I don't think you can do multiple cards. That's even for me a little bit excessive. DS never had to do that. I think it really does come down to getting the right cartridge size. If it's the biggest one possible, then I think optimization is your friend. And if that's not enough, you have to go game keycard. And I think for some, that's fine. But when we see how certain big games like Cyberpunk is fully on the cart, it's possible, dude. Hi, Maddie. First time watcher. Only thing I ask out of Activision is to complete the story of Rook from COD Ghosts. Oh, man. That's a deep COD, bro. I'm not even, I hated COD Ghost, so I apologize. I have nothing to add on this one, because it's like, I played the campaign so long ago, I hated the campaign, I hated the multiplayer, but I know this is like a favorite for the community. There is no 128 size. Yeah, I'm saying if they could add a bigger option, I guess they could. That would be, I don't know why, I figure why wouldn't they do that by default, would be my question. We'll see. Maybe the chat's got the answer. Whoop boot. This has been bothering me. Why the hell did the ESO team get half of them laid off in the middle of a big comeback and upswing if they were supposed to be getting renewed focus on Elder Scrolls? I have this in a video for tomorrow that I'm going to record soon. I don't know if I have a good answer for this one. I don't get the removal of staff for IP that you're going to focus on unless Elder Scrolls Online is being sunset, which I think you could argue what started in 2014 could be getting to be that time. Or just keep it in maintenance mode. Look at what Star Wars The Old Republic is at right now. I think it's a shame because people seem to really like what ESO's doing right now. But I think, yeah, this is just trimming it down to maintenance mode, cashing in on that Elder Scrolls money while they try to accelerate Elder Scrolls 6. Daddy T says, Matty, how is yours and your team's game coming along? I know you don't talk about it much, but I hope it's coming along well. It is. That's all I can really add in, though. But it's coming along. Yeah, we're doing good. I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now. So it's about milestones. That's when you really know. And so we're pushing for one in September, and right now we're pretty on track. And in some cases, our teammates are ahead of schedule, which is good. So I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. But thank you for checking in on this. Did you hear Mystic's take? He said physical sales can't be justified economically. We should argue they're good for culture and brand loyalty. Yeah, I actually did watch. I got through half of his video, but then we're like, my wife and I are starting to clean the house. So we're doing in waves because we're fucking lazy. So we're like, okay, we'll spend like an hour. So when it was time to clean the house, I was like, okay, I'm going to put the video down. But so I didn't get to finish it. But I did like his argument about culture and kind of feeding the evangelist. And I do think that's what like vinyls do for like music lovers or just people who really love something in general. I buy the vinyls for a ton of video game soundtracks. So I do think that there is a route where like there are enough people who are like me and maybe you who want to have the physical copy and to be able to play it. I think that's really important. And even if it's a boutique thing you do after launch, I think a lot of us would wait on that. I think it would be better just to keep it as is, especially because we know there are multiple factories that can produce discs. But I do think this is a good angle to tackle it from. And I do think PlayStation and a lot of these companies are underselling the value of being able to share your copy of a game because, like, I think of the content creation sphere and how a lot of your sales are sometimes intangible. Like, it might be a game that someone handed to a friend, but that friend might be a content creator and really like the game. And after playing that game, they might make a video on it. And that video might lead to other people seeing that game. And that person or people might buy that game. And you might result in more sales than you would have had if you just squeezed one person dry, you know? So I do think feeding the evangelist is huge. There's no reason that third-party external drive should not be used with the Xbox having full Windows. All they're doing is confirming ownership. Yeah, I want to see how customizable these systems will be as well. If we're going to basically veer into PC territory, like, let's just go all the way then, shall we? Good point, Quail. Thank you for your super chat, bro. Void Army, I don't think Sony will reverse course, especially since all current reports say the next Xbox probably isn't going to have a disc drive either. Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's definitely not, like, it's one of those things where when they started to move their disc production factory into other practices, but they told their partners late, I don't know. I think there's always a chance, but yeah, like, is it likely? No. But that's why it's important to keep up the fight, because it's not a 0% chance. So, you know, I think the thing with Xbox not going yet on digital or physical, and I'm not holding my breath by any means, but if you can topple PlayStation, as I said earlier, you can keep Xbox in place where they have to do this now. Otherwise, they put themselves out of the race because they see what happened if you just went all digital. So, I mean, they certainly know better than anyone. Xbox as well trying to restore their core audience. You could make an argument, and I think it's a fair one, that, like, again, to what the super chat we were reading earlier from Mystic's take here, again, you could argue that Xbox just plays to the hardcore gamer entirely and just goes in on that and just establishes that hardcore spending base, and I think people would really reward that too. So to this here, yeah, like, there's a strong chance nothing happens, but I think Xbox could get a little cute with it. Thank you, Nerf Ditch. A reminder that Matty bodied chat with 82 word per minute typing test on the last live stream. Top tier content. Hey, Matt, you know what? Just it's no biggie, dude. These fingers are still a little hot from that typing test, though. Thank you for incentivizing me to do it, Nerf Ninja. It was good to see how far my skills have come since high school when I took a typing class. Honestly, I feel a little bit slower, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Sham, thanks for becoming a member, man. Maddie, will you be at Joe's upcoming concert? I will not. No, I've already seen him a couple times, so I'm trying to see other bands right now. But still listening, but I won't be at his upcoming concert now. Glad to know there's other Joe fans in the house, though. Great music. Crux is awesome. It'd be funny if Maddie was actually sipping moonshine. Can you imagine? Yeah, a lot of people always think I'm sipping moonshine from this glass because I'm drinking water. It's so funny. I remember when we first started streaming, as we like got a lot of weirdos in and out of the stream crew. Like people would show up and be like, "Oh my god, he's like fucking hammered on stream all the time." I'm like, dude, what? I don't even fucking drink alcohol. Like, what? Good lord. I missed a super chat. Hold on. Thank you, Uncharted Wolf. Let's see here. It's not refreshing on my end. Give me 1 sec. Silverback, could you let me know more about that? The Asha versus Todd narrative that's going around. Can you fire away with that? I'm curious what is being said. Okay, let's see here. Which one did I miss? Oh, I missed Uncharted Wolf saying, I'm spineless for liking Pokemon. The nerve. You are. Unless it's Pocopia, which I know you've seen the light on. You are. How dare you? You're the reason that physical games have died. I guess I'm just sipping on that moonshine a little too much. Schmackaroonied. Okay, let's see here. Were you disappointed that Blizzard Entertainment didn't show at the Xbox Showcase, and what are you looking most forward to at BlizzCon? No, I was not disappointed. I'm not much of a Blizzard fan. I don't really care about them much. And what was I looking forward to most at BlizzCon? Diablo is probably the franchise I care about most when it comes to Blizzard, so maybe more on that. Overwatch. Oh, Overwatch is probably my most played one, though. Overwatch, I fucking loved Overwatch 1. I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer, dude. I'm not like a big Blizzard guy at all. Like, that's really why we started to bring Brad onto the show, because Brad grew up with Blizzard, and he, like, pardon me, he fucking loved Blizzard. So, for me, it was like, oh, I played World of Warcraft, but I went back to RuneScape. I liked Diablo. That was fun. But I really grew up on things like Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance, Champions Return to Arms. So those are like my Untold Legends. Like those are my Diablos. So I didn't really have a strong attachment to that. It was just more of a thing I knew I loved. And then Overwatch was like the new. That was awesome. And I didn't play much Overwatch 2. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer. I feel bad because you're super chatting, bro. But I'd rather tell you that than lie to you. So I'm sorry. Let me catch up on one of the chats here I saw about the Todd thing. I wanted to... Silverback said, basically a lot of people seem to be under the impression that Asha is making demands of Bethesda that Todd would push back on if it was Phil or otherwise. Yeah, it's possible. My thoughts on that, like... I said this before, when they started to force the point with Fallout. I think it's necessary. I also think Todd is not long for that world. I just, based on what we hear, I don't really know Todd personally. I know I've interviewed him, but I don't know Todd as like a person and his like actual feelings on things. So your guess is as good as mine. But like, if we're to believe that Todd is a very protective person of the IP and believes in the process and especially believes in the pace, and now suddenly the guy who's being told, the guy who tells you I like you to miss things and disappears for a while is being told rapido. I don't see those two meshing well. I know they're trying to accelerate, but we're about to see how much of a company guy Todd is, and a lot of the people who made him a company guy are gone. So that's the other tricky part. A lot of his friends are gone, including Phil, who he was close with and he talked to during the whole 76 debacle. Do you think Todd's going to pick up the phone and call Asha when, Bethesda has another Fallout 76-like disaster? No, certainly not. Games became too big and should have the option to run directly from disc again. Last games to run direct from disc were Blu-ray. We have 4K discs now. You're preaching to the choir here, bro. Like, I don't know. I'm old school, though, I guess. It's, you know, like, to me... Games don't need to be bigger than this. Right here. About a 25-hour game. Choice and consequence, replayable. Games do not need to be bigger than this. This era of RPG, I just miss it so much. I miss... Not that they don't exist, but I miss when RPGs of this scale were frequent. BioWare was the kings of that. They made tight RPGs that were super replayable, and so for me, I got my hours out of this one by replaying it, not by, like, even... I'll be honest with you guys, I love Baldur's Gate 3. We'll actually be talking about that a little bit later as part of what Polygon's up to. Baldur's Gate 3, though, is, like, as many RPGs are, like, excessively long. And that's what part of what makes it beautiful. But it's also what part of it which keeps me from rapid replays, like I did with so many other RPGs I love. Like, I have not replayed Baldur's Gate 3 as many times as I'd like to have. And for a lot of people, they love that it's just this bottomless barrel. For me, I like that there's a somewhat bottomless barrel. Like, you can see a lot of options in KOTOR, a lot of options in Mass Effect, a lot of options in Jade Empire, but you can eventually hit some form of a bottom. A little bit. Like, where you've kind of broadly hit most things. So yeah, I agree that games don't need to be so big, but sometimes it's not even the scale of content, it's the visuals, it's the audio quality. Those take up a lot of disk space for the games like Call of Duty that really push that stuff. Rate my Fallout pitch. Okay, Christopher, you're up. Here we go. Fallout Motor City in Detroit. Bring back cars, full customization. Midwest Brotherhood of Steel comes back. Map is 60% destroyed. I can't read. Map is 60% destroyed. Map, I guess that could be a code name for it. Destroyed. Map is 60% Detroit, 40% Canada, and the Canadian Mounties are faction. Okay. Okay. I like that you're mixing in the Canadian aspect because that's a little bit of Operation Anchorage energy. And certainly where Season 3 is going with the whole Canada thing, I think that can get us somewhere interesting. I think that Bethesda leaning into that with a TV show was one of the best ideas they had. Sorry, I have like phlegm right now. It's killing me, bro. I hate being sick. Anyway, I've never been to Detroit. I don't know enough about it to say if it would be a good Fallout setting or not. But I do like that you're mixing in the Fallout heritage. I like the car customization a lot. I think kind of the Highwayman, bringing that back, or something like it, and having you explore the map that way would be really cool. And otherwise, I would say Midwest Brotherhood of Steel coming back. Now you're making Fallout Tactics more full canon by proxy, dangerous play there. I'm giving you an 8, you know? I'm giving you an 8 by proxy of Detroit ignorance, which a lot of people in chat have already made the same joke, which is like, yeah, yo, like, it's the same shit. It's awful. I guess the era of seeing the Bethesda logo and it being Fallout 76 and ESO doing their annual update video to troll everyone might be ending. Oh, my video's paying off. Yeah, probably a little bit. I don't know what's going on with the 76 team. I'm wishing all these teams the best. I'm not going to pretend I'm wishing people's jobs to end. I'm only saying that I hope Bethesda can focus on the Fallout and Elder Scrolls products that people truly care about en masse. And that the resources from those teams is probably, I think, better spent on pioneering something, I would say, more popular. Popular, mainstream, consumable, you know, not just regurgitating stuff from the Atomic Shop. I would do unspeakable things for a Jade Empire remake or a sequel. I wish they would have carried along with it with Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Yeah, that would have been nice, dude. Yeah. Jade Empire was one I played pretty late compared to the pantheon of... God damn, bro. I gotta blow my nose. Give me one sec. Fuck this shit, bro. Holy crap, holy... Oh, okay. Where was I? Yeah, so I would love to see more Jade Empire. I was a late adopter of that one. Played that in, like, what, 2017? What a feeling it was to play, like, a classic BioWare game for the first time ever in, like, my young adulthood. That was cool. That was cool as fuck. But, yeah, I would have loved to see them do more. There were rumors of a Jade Empire 2, which would have been awesome. Laura Fryer has a great video about the layoffs, and there were some really bad looks on the teams that Microsoft bought. Oh! Let's talk about that. Thank you for bringing this up. Hang on. I sent this to Locke because I was just like, dude, no fucking way someone actually said this on camera. Hang on. Okay. So this is part of the Psych Odyssey documentary. Hang on. Okay. Let me pause the music real quick. I want you guys to hear this. Because bringing this up, really good timing. Okay. And then this. And then this. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Listen to this shit. Hang on.
You know, he's just like, what's the most unpitchable idea that I could present to Microsoft, who's stuck with us, and see if they approve it? And it did. And so we're just like, okay.
Yeah. So they went to Microsoft, who had just bought them, and said they were pitching them the most unpitchable ideas. And I don't know, bro. I think that's a level of crazy where I'm just like, I don't get this, right? As a team that's going to be looking for funding soon, I don't get the idea of getting someone else's money and being like wildly irresponsible with it. Like, yo, let's fucking pitch them a Lighthouse game that nobody wants. That'd be hilarious, bro. Oh shit, they actually said yes. Like, it makes Xbox look good, bro. Like that they were like, yeah, you know what, you're passionate about that, sure. And they're like, what? You damage the whole relationship. You affect other companies and their relationships too, because now they're like, well, they fucked us over and talked about it in a documentary. That's absurd. I saw that shit in Laura Fryer's video. I cannot believe that that's the way that they pitched that shit, bro. I imagine they're talking about something like Keeper or Kiln. And I get they're probably talking about in the light of like, hey, well, you know, look how, like, we couldn't believe they were really that committed to us. But isn't it like, oh, we have money, we're flush with cash? What have we dreamt of making? How is that not the default? How is that not the default, bro? Like, yeah, like Baresco says it perfectly. Why would you pitch something you didn't want to make? Why? I just like, I don't know, bro. I didn't watch the rest of the video because I only just saw this clip today because I was talking to our editor Dan, and who was it? Who sent me this video? No one sent me this video. I think I saw it in a comment. Oh, it was mentioned in a Defining Duke write-up. Someone wrote saying like, I wish Double Fine got shut down. I was like, let me look into this, and I tracked it into that video because they said someone left a comment on the video. When I looked, I saw the first minute, and that's where the clip was. And I was like, no fucking way. I got to watch the rest of that. Laura makes some excellent videos. I'd love to interview her someday. She makes some really excellent videos. Microsoft gave them rope, and they kicked the chair out over for everyone in the company. Yeah, now they're on their own, bro. And I'm not saying like, I mean, you made your bed. You lie in it now. And I'm sure they don't give a fuck. If you watch the clip of them in the documentary learning about the acquisition by Xbox, they look terrified. Like, they did not look excited. So I think they wanted out anyway. That was years ago. 14 layers of middle management is insane. No wonder more games didn't come out and get dragged out dev time. Yeah. Yeah. All these fake jobs, bro. That's the thing. That's where you, like, a lot of the devs catch flack for shit that's way above them. people always wonder why I have like a more developer protective approach. It's because we don't know this stuff. And then the CEO of Xbox is like, yeah, we had 14 layers of middle management. There's no way that's a good creator ecosystem. There's no way going up that ladder for things at times is good for anybody. It's unbelievable that ever existed. Ever. So, yeah, man. I just, I couldn't fucking believe she even admitted that. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it definitely made her look right. And I think that's why they did. But it's just terrible. What are your thoughts on the recent Jez Corden report that said Xbox Helix disk drives are now under consideration by Xbox again? Is this our only hope? Xbox has historically been wishy-washy. So my 2 cents on it is like, they're going to wait to see if PlayStation pivots. And that's all they're doing. If PlayStation doesn't pivot and people start to accept it, they'll continue forward. I do think they're looking at the bad PR PlayStation's getting, though, and also wondering about the opportunity cost. Could we support this in some way that's small and keep those fans happy? Could we do a disk drive alternative? Like, could we basically do what we did this generation? Like, here's the Helix with a disk drive. And have people who care about physical media be supported and access their library. Would that count for something? Would people pay a little bit more for that? I would. Not everyone, but I would. And that's why options should exist. I think it's a free W. I think it's a layup. But it's obviously... I wonder what this whole situation is like if we don't have AI in the conversation. Where it's like, right now the conversation is like, oh, well, production costs for these parts is so high and all this shit. It's like, yeah, true. Let's say this is not really applicable right now, but if you remove that from the situation, I think Xbox's choice is a no-brainer. They're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's fucking go for it. But I would just love to see Xbox give the receipt. It would be the one thing that I think Xbox could do to get PlayStation to flip. Is just like put out a post, our commitment to physical games. Here's what we're doing. Will they do that? 2% chance. Could they have an epic win, though, if they did that? That could maybe spiderweb across the industry. Absolutely. And I think they need the goodwill. So certainly there's a match. And if Xbox wants to be the heroes of physical media, no one will back them up more than me. Dandy Guy in Space, thank you for your super chat. Shame that Xbox isn't holding on to Psychonauts and State of Decay IP. Out of all the studios being spun off, those are by far the most valuable and the ones with the most association history with Xbox. So, Dandy Guy, I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. Think of all of the IP that Xbox has bought since 2018. And then think of how much of it actually gets used. And if it gets used, how much it's used productively. I like that these teams got to walk away with their IP. Putting more shit in the Microsoft jail, I think, is bad for the industry. We just experienced this with the Initiative, right? They were only chance at a perfect Dark game. That's not happening for a while, I'm sure. Because it's in the Microsoft jail now. So that IP is just dormant, sitting there. No one's going to really want to pitch this thing. Excitement for it's low. Like, it's fucked, dude, right? So that's another dormant IP with a laundry list of them. Think of all the Rare IP, all the Bethesda IP that just sit there and collect dust. Think about it, right? State of Decay, them letting that go, though, I do agree that is a mistake. As in, I do think they should have kept on Dead Labs. I think Jez Corden said this in a tweet. He was like, I'm looking forward to celebrating the victory of State of Decay 3 at launch and making Xbox feel foolish. And I 1,000 fucking % agree with that. I think they are going to regret that move. I think the whole penny pinching approach is going to fuck them over with that one specifically. Because everyone else, you can make sense of it, but it's like State of Decay 3 is like one of your more higher chances of success in the near future. I don't know, man. And if you don't think State of Decay 3 is worth holding on to, then I don't know about Blade, you know? So I appreciate this perspective, but hopefully it's a little food for thought. Thank you for your super chat, though. Kyle, thank you again for your super chat. I hope Phil was fired because he knew this was coming and he chose to leave instead of dealing with it himself. Straight up cowardice. What the fuck was he doing? Twisted. I think the company got twisted into a pretzel trying to sustain something that gave them a lifeline, right? Think of it this way. Xbox is going to get shut down in the Xbox One generation. What we have Phil to thank for, if anything, is keeping Xbox alive long enough to get to this point, right? By that, I don't mean that every decision he made was right. Clearly, we know that's not the case. And I've been saying this for like 2 fucking years now, or more like a year and a half now, that I'm like, I'm not Team Phil. But look, the reality is that Game Pass did give Xbox an ability to survive that it otherwise wouldn't have had. But it's also what trained their consumers to not buy games and completely fucked over their entire business. So to manage all of that content and all those purchases of that, you know, oh, Xbox Game Studios isn't making money, buy Bethesda. Oh, Xbox Game Studios isn't making money, buy Activision. Certainly with Call of Duty will make money. You could justify all of these decisions in a vacuum, probably. But broadly speaking, they were disastrous moves, and that's where the middle management comes in, because no single person could manage all these teams and all this IP. There's managers that need multiple managers. It's fucking ridiculous. So part of me was thinking that there was a chance they would just spin out Activision independently again, but I don't think they want to leave that money. So that's my answer on that. Was Phil fired? Probably unofficially, like, you got to go. You can walk or we'll fire you. And he chose to walk. No more Indiana Jones. Play PSA. Play Remedyverse Peak. Yeah, I need to play the Remedyverse. I was just talking to an artist on our team about Control. He loves it, and so I was like, I gotta get to that one. I gotta get to the whole Remedyverse. As for Indiana Jones, though, yeah, dude, I think that's done. I think these licensed games are like, I don't really think they're long for this world unless like a really special deal is cut. Probably what PlayStation has. I'd imagine they have a better deal than most because of their long-standing partnership. But otherwise, Indiana Jones, bro, I mean, it sucks because they did set up a sequel, but I don't think we ever see that. Thank you, Samurai James. I appreciate you, dude. Please play the Control games. No excuses, man. This fan base is rabid. I got to get on it. I know. I got to get on it. I do. I don't think it's happening this year, like I said, though. Maybe during my winter break is when I do dive into more of the Remedyverse. You know, Alan Wake 2, Control. I guess Control Resonant. A lot of people are very stoked for Control Resonant. I know a lot of the comments on my video about upcoming games for 2026. A lot of people are like, where's Control? I'm like, I haven't fucking played the other games. What do you want from me, damn it? Dandy Guy, thank you for following up here. Fair point. I've been waiting for Banjo for eons, but if their decisions are driven by focusing on profitable hits, Psychonauts and State of Decay were the most profitable out of that bunch. Let's think. Yeah, out of the bunch, yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, jeez, it's so sad to say, but it's fair to say. Totally. I guess what I'm coming from the angle on Dandy Guy is like, since Xbox are awful stewards of franchises right now, until they learn it, I want them to hold as little IP as possible. Especially because we don't really know what their direction is for their business. Like, are they still going console exclusivity? How extreme are they doing that when they want to entertain 1 billion people each day? Whether that be TV, movies, phones, games, whatever it may be. That's, you know, you got to have big IP for that. So I'd like to see how they handle those big IP and reach that number. But yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable with them owning more IP. I'm glad that they got spun off, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying from a profitability standpoint. Like, them not having a vested interest in State of Decay 3 is a little crazy. Seems like State of Decay 3 and Senua, though, they are finishing out, so it seems like they might reap the most benefits from them, but still, it's like, State of Decay 3, bro, like, I just can't get over that. It's so stupid. Blood of Dogwalker previews are really good. Hoping a banger is incoming. I got to check these out, man. Seems like a lot of people are saying it's really good. Not surprised, though. I think the game is looking pretty special. I mean, Witcher 3 director, so, and a lot of the core Witcher 3 team. So, yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on that one. Only a little bit under 2 months. Not bad. As someone who's been both fired and laid off, I wish people would not mix the two up. Pretty stark difference for the people affected. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm definitely very loose and fast with the terminology there. So, very good point here, Coel. Is there anything you could tell us about the music for your game, like a touchstone? Always enjoy the game soundtracks you play in videos and streams. Sure. I want to give you something to chew on. It's very time period driven. Very much evokes the era it's set in. And I'm really happy with the instruments we use to accomplish that. As for tracks we look at or listen to, honestly, we used to do it this way. So there was a point where we took our project and we kind of retooled it, and we had like a multi-dozen soundtrack library that our composer did that was pretty excellent. And we're still going to use those pieces. Those were made bit by bit, sort of by like combining like movies, games, other music, and being like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's the sound I like in this one. Here's how I think it fits. But our composer like really is at a point where I mean, he was already there, but like we have such a good relationship and he is so good that I kind of just tell him the story and the feel I'm going for. And I give him the option now. I'm like, do you want touchstones? And nowadays it's mostly no. And he just goes off and does something, and it's fucking superb, bro. Like, I'm not even trying to gas it up. Like, our music, like, there's this one track we have that, like, we all agree it's, like, it's a feel. Like, you really, it brings a location to life. So, a touchstone, though, is tough for me to say. I will say I do like the feeling Bethesda games music provides for their gameplay. Sort of like what you're hearing now, where it's a little open and exploratory. Not exactly fantasy, though. Of course not. Come on now. That's all I got for you, though. Maddie, don't worry about the other stuff. Buy an Ein Thor. I know I need to. I made a. Okay, I didn't make a mistake, but like right here is a stack of things that. Well, these two were from a sponsorship that I did for Whatnot. So these are my two orders. See, they did come in the mail. Pretty awesome. Got Hades 2. I got to play this, bro. I'm so excited. But I did a little bit of spending when I was on vacation, and I wanted to buy an Ein Thor, but this is the game that put me out of pocket for that. Right here. Yeah. I've been wanting to get this game for so long, though. I still have it in the sleeve. It's like so pristine. I'm so excited to play it. Man, I can't wait. But yeah, it kind of put me out of business for the Ein Thor, unfortunately. With the restructuring and Xbox saying focusing on bigger IP, I'm really hoping we don't get a bunch of sequels or multiple sequels in the same franchises. I would prepare yourself for that. I would prepare yourself for that. I think that is exactly what you're getting. I think you were getting safe Xbox. You got experimental Xbox. Now you're getting safe Xbox, who's going to make a lot of Fallout, a lot of Elder Scrolls, a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of Halo, and they are just going to milk it. And so, yeah, dude, it's... We'll see. If they take these IP, though, and they're like, hey, we're going to do Fallout, we're going to do Mainline, and we got some, like, CRPG-style series we're going to do, and kind of run those in parallel, that could be awesome. But I think they want to get the Mainline up and running. Safe Xbox, though, is inbound, Nerdy Giant. I would just prepare yourself for that. Yes, Meatball, I do have Alien Isolation. The Nostromo edition. This, my best friend bought this for me while we were out there. I guess true. Out of the 4 games I have, I didn't buy this one. He got me this one. And then, because it was my birthday recently, my friends really went above and beyond. They didn't have to. They got me this as a gift, too, which you guys know how much I love Mega Man. And this is, I fucking love Nendoroids. They were being sus. They were like, yo, Matt, like, what Nendoroids do you have? Like, did you see these over here? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, I'm looking at my collection right now. I got Bakugo. I got Mega Man EXE. Of course, I got Battle Network. Anything Battle Network? Are you kidding me? Hang on. I mean anything Battle Network. Anything Battle Network I will buy. Anyway, I've got Battle Network. I got Yu Narukami, Batman. I've got Tanjiro and Nezuko. And that's really it. My Nendoroid collection's pretty small, all things considered. And so my friends are like, yo, do you have like Mega Man? I'm like, just Battle Network. And they know I love X. And so they got me this for my birthday. And it was really sweet. I was really, really happy. So I can't wait to set this one up. And then my other friend for my birthday got me this. You'd think I have this one. This is the Vault-Tec lunchbox that came with the Fallout 3 Collector's Edition, and it does have on the inside, although whoever owned this used to smoke for sure, so I gotta clean this out. But it did come with the put his feet in here. The bobblehead. See Vault 101 as well. These are the things I need to pull out of my storage. Oh man, it's got like a mothball scent to it. Told my friend, I was like, yo, this is sick. It smells fucking awful. You got a kick out of it. But anyway, yeah, I had a pretty good birthday this year, man. My friends treated me really well. Oh God, everything's falling apart here. Maddie rubbing all the friends he has in our faces. I'm not rubbing it in. Come on. I have a very small circle of friends. And especially after the last 2 years of my life, anyone who's paid attention to the fucking encounters I've had on Twitter, specifically back when Veilguard came out, my circle of trust went like this to this, bro. It's something I'm personally working on. Like, I don't trust people nearly as much as I used to. So my friend group is like this. Very, very small. A few weeks back, you were forecasting Xbox bringing back new backward compatibility projects. What do you think now? Still think that's the case. I do think that it's going to be digital. I think this is going to be their way of getting around maybe some licensing deals. Or I'm sorry. Bleh. I think they might take the physical route in some cases. I got that completely reversed. Because they did that with 50 Cent Blood in the Sand. That said, I think step one is just getting back compat onto PC. But here's the trick, and I think why you might be asking this question as well. If Xbox is retooling Helix, like we've heard, to more of a traditional console, you know, like, do you need to bring all your back compat to PC? I still think you should, but they might just think, well, we could sell this as well, you know? So I would just say, like, I still am a believer that they'll focus on bringing those games over, but I wonder if benevolent Xbox, who's focused on making money, wants to give you all those, like, okay, my example always is this. Ultimate Alliance, all those Marvel games like Shattered Dimensions, the Transformers games. Do they really just want to bring that back in back compat if they can, or do they want to sell it to you again? We know the answer. People would line up to buy a Transformers like collection of Devastation and Fall of Cybertron, War of Cybertron. Like, come on. So I think they'll still do it, but they might approach it a bit differently. Hey, Maddie, when I believe when Microsoft said exclusivity, they don't necessarily mean the console itself, but more of the ecosystem, which can mean that people interact on Game Pass or PC with their games. That's if Game Pass is still long for this world, right? We'll talk about that. I'll get the slop up and running in a second here. We'll kind of round out the questions here for a little bit and jump into some more news stories together. But yeah, dude, I do think when it comes to exclusivity, if Game Pass is part of the formula, it looks like it's going to change pretty dramatically. But this is also sort of what Phil Spencer was saying. The idea of like being available on every platform is like exclusivity doesn't really exist, but it kind of does to the ecosystem. If you want to entertain 1 billion people a day, it seems like the only way you could do it, though. So this is a good theory. I like it. Is Todd included in the 14 layers of management? Maybe within Bethesda. Yeah, might be. He would. I would certainly imagine he's on the ladder at Bethesda. That would be very stunned if he was not. That's just my 2 cents. But I'm sure he is, right? Like, think about it. Think of like how many of the leadership positions we saw at Bethesda. Like, there was Robert Altman, there was Todd, there was Pete Hines, there was Jamie. There's so many of them, bro. So many of them already. So I'm sure he's still in the mix. Outside of the safe Xbox strategy, what other Xbox IP would you like to see return? Banjo's an obvious one for me. But I also think stuff like Killer Instinct, Lost Odyssey, and Phantom Dust. He's still one of my answers, bro. Lost Odyssey, for sure. Fusion Frenzy, I think, would be awesome to see come back. I'm looking at my collection right now. What was another one? Nightcaster, I have good memories with. Jet Set Radio was another one, but that is kind of coming back. Star Wars, their Star Wars run was sick. Between Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, Republic Commando, and KOTOR 1 and 2. They had all the Star Wars games. It was so sick. Fable's already back. Death Row. Oh my god, Death Row would do so good nowadays, I think. And Blinks the Time Sweeper also comes to mind. Good question. But definitely Lost Odyssey is number 1 on my list. Lost Odyssey should come back. Absolute fucking sick game. That game will make you cry, bro. Not even just because of the ending. Play the 1,000 Years of Dreams? Whew. Powerful shit. I'm just a niche freak and want Sudeki back. Hold on. I gotta. Oh wow, this is a deep cut. It's $3 on Steam. 2005. Wow. Yeah, this is a deep cut, dude. I've never even really seen much on this one. Good shout. Good shout. The real Sawyer Snyder. If Xbox announced any old Marvel games that haven't come over digitally, I'm a PlayStation gamer, but I go out and buy an Xbox tomorrow. And there you go. I got games for you, Xbox. This would bring some people over alone. Where is it? Please. The best Marvel game of all time. Please. This cover is so iconic. It's so funny. Does anyone also think that, like, this is mid? Ultimate Alliance 2? I like 3 more than 2. If anyone needs to kind of gauge my take on the Ultimate Alliance series. Like, I was not a huge fan of Ultimate Alliance 2. Ultimate Alliance 2 was way less of an RPG. Like, Ultimate Alliance 1 had, like, the Jean Grey Nightcrawler choice. Hello? That was fucking awesome, bro. The comic book missions. But yeah, like this, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, those 2 are, like, top of my list. Bring those back. Do a Raimi game collection. Do Spider-Man 1 through 3. That would be fucking sick. Man. I reckon that Fallout lunchbox used to be cocks. Come on now. Be nice to my man. Kyle got a nicer lunchbox than that. Yeah, Ultimate Alliance 3 was Switch only. Yeah. Let me get our next story up here, guys. We got 3 stories to go through today. I realize I didn't give anyone an update on what those would be. We're going to continue our conversation on the fallout from the Xbox reset and just kind of pick up all the news scraps I missed originally in my video. So we'll talk about that because the news moved really fast. We're going to talk about the Game Pass experiment and how it's failed. And we're going to talk about Polygon's rage bait to kind of round things out. Let me get everything nice and situated here. Okay. Let me just, let's make sure everything's nice and oriented here. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. It's a little off-center, but I think that works for all the others, right? Yeah. Hey, we're actually using Kotaku as a source. How about that? Okay, looks good. Looks good. 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 And good. Okay, cool. That's all we'll be talking about. That's your slop for the day. All right, let me pause the music. And who's ready for a little slop? I need to take off my headphones so I can hear myself speak. Feel free, ladies and gentlemen, to spam your slop emojis in the chat, whether it be the free meat or the paid meat, the premium meats, if you will. You know, before I actually get started, let me blow my nose real quick. Hang on. All right, there we go. Officially on empty. I'm sure I'll still cough in the middle of this recording, so I'll do my best. All right, let's do this, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the fallout of the slop. As we saw this week, finally the axe fell at Xbox, and there's been a lot of just radial damage. It was an AoE attack. We saw the central targets, and we've seen now the repercussions as they've reached across the many first-party studios at Xbox. Obviously, the tail of the tape when the news broke was what was happening with the 5 studios that Xbox was assessing across Arcane, Undead Labs, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, and Double Fine. But now we're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at everything that's happened since. Letters that were shared within Bethesda and what they're focusing on. What's happening with Obsidian Entertainment? What's their headcount right now? What's going on with Game Pass? How is that being supported, according to some people who've heard inside murmuring at Xbox? What's going on with Blizzard? What's happening with some other Bethesda-related titles and how they're originally planning to be supported in one direction and they fit that IP catalog that Xbox wants to focus on, but maybe not so much anymore. We have a number of staff layoffs at id, 50%, 95 people, a lot to talk about there. And also Rafael Colantonio entering the bidding war on Arcane potentially. So just a lot to go over here. Truly, this is if we were to use slop terminology, this is sloppy joes, right? We're just like right on the bun, putting it together, and here's your slop sandwich. So let's start getting into it. Of course, you know me, Bethesda is top of mind in all of this because this is a radical time for them, no doubt about it. One thing that we learned yesterday, thanks to IGN, is that Bethesda actually sent out a letter to their staff addressing the layoffs and what they would be doing moving forward. And that's why we're going to go from this right into Obsidian Entertainment for reasons that will explain themselves as I read through the entire thing. So let's read the letter. Jill Braff, who's the boss of Bethesda, says, "Team, I want to acknowledge the changes taking place across Xbox, including here at Bethesda, where a number of our colleagues have been impacted. Today's news affects people who have worked alongside us, inspired us, challenged us, and fuck off. Across our global organization, some employees are leaving the company while certain countries review strategic options. Of course, this is Arcane. Through processes required by local law. While each situation is different, what they share is uncertainty for people in our community. We're going to skip this whole sincere gratitude thing, blah, 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 blah. The intent behind today's announced changes is consistent with the broader direction for Xbox, a greater focus, improving execution and positioning our business for long-term success. These shifts also reflect the realities of our industry and business and our responsibility to ensure Bethesda is operating from a more stable foundation. To be successful in the future, we need to change course." So that's already admitting Bethesda's not in a good spot, which is very telling based on just like, for example, the quality of their products from what you consider their North Star studio in Bethesda Game Studios, like the main moneymaker, putting out things like Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, which was terrible, or their Switch ports, which were not good as well. But point being, we must strengthen our business, return to sustainable growth, and ensure we can continue investing in our franchises and our players. I know that doesn't make a day like today any easier. As we look ahead, we will meaningfully evolve how we operate. For decades, Bethesda has organized its businesses around the individual roadmaps of our largely independent development studios, supported by centralized. Let me reread that just for the slop listeners out there. I'm sure someone will complain that I just burped in the mic. Let me try that again, okay? Emmett, please edit this out, please and thank you. All right. As we look ahead, we will meaningfully evolve how we operate. For decades, Bethesda has organized its business around the individual roadmaps of our largely independent development studios, supported by centralized publishing and corporate teams. This model enabled us to create some of the industry's most beloved franchises. However, rising player expectations, increasing development complexity, and a more competitive market have changed the economics of our industry. Interesting. It's this next one that I think will catch a lot of your ears. To best position Bethesda for future growth, we are shifting from a planning model primarily centered on what's next for each independent studio to one that focuses on our strongest franchises and determining the content roadmap that best serves our players and Bethesda as a whole. From there, we'll align the right talent, technology, and resources across the organization to deliver on those priorities. By working more closely across the organization, sharing expertise and capabilities, and focusing our investment on the opportunities with the greatest potential, we believe we can support our franchises and IP with meaningful long-term potential. This does not change the importance of exceptional creative work, craftsmanship, and innovation, which makes Bethesda special. Our teams and studios' identities, talent, and expertise remain essential to our success. Trying to kind of put to bed the whole AI concern here. What changes how we align those strengths, bringing them together around our franchises and IP to position Bethesda for the long-term growth and continued investment in our future. We'll share more about our direction in the weeks and months ahead, but for today, my focus is the people who have made and continue to make Bethesda what it is. Okay, so yada, yada, yada. Corporate speak for giving a shit. So what we've got here is a Bethesda that is focusing on basically taking the entirety of the body of Bethesda itself and potential support studios and focusing them on individual IP. So, of course, as we learned through the Jason Schreier report that came out with all the news breaking, the IP that Bethesda are looking at most are Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Quake, Doom, and Wolfenstein. That third option there obviously confirming what I think id's next game will be. But obviously the question mark surrounding a lot of this is like, well, how is id going to make this game? Are they going to be the ones to make the game? And that's where I think the broader approach to Xbox's content is a bit of a question mark here. For example, we have this post here from Jeff Gardner, who was at Bethesda Game Studios for a long period of time. He was like the lead producer on Skyrim, if I remember correctly. But you see here, he was a project lead at Bethesda. He led the kind of turnaround for 76 as well. But like really good dude, and also someone who's been there throughout Bethesda's best video games. And you could feel he is missing in all of this. But he, as someone who's very connected to Bethesda, got the numbers and said he heard that 35 folks at Bethesda Game Studios lost their jobs, which I should say was a bit surprising. Like, we don't know if these are like development members, but if they were and they're working on Elder Scrolls 6, that'd be a bit surprising since it seems like an all hands on deck project. But Jeff Gardner did say 95 at id, which reports have said this amounts to half the team. So what I'm trying to understand here is if Bethesda is, and Xbox as a whole, is attempting to say, okay, these are the franchises we're focusing on, then laying off half of id, who would no doubt spearhead a Quake reboot, is a bit of a question mark to me. But this could be going back a little bit to, if they got away from this, that is, the Bethesda of old. Bethesda shared, for example, when they were making Fallout 4, that id helped Bethesda Game Studios improve their shooting for Fallout 4, which when you look at Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, quite the improvement. Not that Fallout 4 shooting was anything to really brag about, but definitely an improvement from Fallout 3, generally speaking. The Hellraiser that you'd find in Doom 2016, that was made by Tango. So it seems like they may be embracing that culture a bit more here, but it also means that I think they're going to reach beyond into Xbox a little bit more. And that's where things get a bit interesting with Obsidian Entertainment, because we have this report here from Kotaku who says that they're losing about 25% of their staff. Here's the write-up. Among the massive cuts made today across Xbox, Kotaku understands that roughly 1/4 of Obsidian Entertainment, the first-party studio behind Avowed, Outer Worlds, and Pentiment, is being let go. Speaking to sources with knowledge of the matter, Kotaku understands that somewhere around 60 to 70 people were cut. The layoffs include producers, artists, designers, programmers, QA testers, writers, and others who have worked across Obsidian's prodigious slate of recent releases. Looking through LinkedIn posts from impacted employees, it's apparent that many of those impacted were senior talent, including some with over a decade of experience at the studio. The art director on The Outer Worlds, which, by the way, I've seen a little bit of misinformation on this. It is not the same art director that was on Avowed, who I also believe is out. But this is a different person. Like, I would say the art director for The Outer Worlds, based on what I've read online, is tolerable. And the studio's only recruiter were among those who were laid off. Most of these roles were eliminated on July 6th as part of Xbox's first 1,600 layoffs, while a few were told they would be let go later this year as part of the second wave of cuts. One individual told me that employees who will remain at the studio have not yet received formal guidance on how their existing projects can continue with so many staff members missing, particularly given what they characterize as a huge list of projects in the works at the studio in the coming months. Kotaku understands that the work on Grounded 2, which is currently in early access, and the announced DLC for Outer Worlds 2 is expected to continue, which that latter part's a bit surprising. But plans beyond that are up in the air. Employees are expected to hear more at a studio-wide meeting today as we record this, July 7th, of which Xbox declined to comment on specifics. So obviously now this is where things get a bit interesting. And that, frankly, we might have information on this story as soon as this week on what exactly is happening with Obsidian, because they're the ones I'm most interested in among them all. They ship the most games for Xbox. They are being trimmed down. Their most successful game was Grounded, which was made by a 13-person team. And in that sense, with that in mind, I'm a little surprised Obsidian didn't get hit harder, because the games that they spent the most money on, Avowed and Outer Worlds 2, cost them the most, right? Part of that did get bloated because of the long development timelines, but you look at how quickly we got Grounded 2 and how successful that was. I felt like Xbox could have made the arguments for themselves that, like, oh, well, if we just let them only make that. We can trim down their studio size and save a lot of money, and their most popular thing is very cheap to operate. I'm glad they didn't go that route, but nonetheless, 60 to 70 people cut, about 25% of the staff. What projects was Obsidian working on? When you think about that, that's where it gets interesting. Grounded 2, Outer Worlds DLC, Avowed 2, according to Chris Avallone. Is that still going on? Let's throw in Tim Kane's project, which he said was a new IP, and he said it was not Fallout. Actually, don't quote me on the new IP part. I might be wrong about that, but he said it wasn't Fallout. So that could be something new. That's 4. And then I have to imagine there's something going on with Fallout. I just don't know how they don't get into Fallout after all of this. I don't get it. That would make no sense to me if a team that is built to make Fallout in so many ways, especially when you look at the Outer Worlds, is not making a Fallout game. So that could be on their project list too. That's 5. And they just lost 25% of their staff. So something's got to go there. If you were to ask me from that list there, I don't know anything about Tim Kane's new project. Certainly, given the talent around it, that sounds interesting. We don't know the scale, scope, what type of, if it's an RPG, it is. Like, is it more CRPG? Is it traditional RPG? I don't know. So that could be on the chopping block. And you could maybe throw in there as well Avowed 2. I don't know. Avowed didn't light the world on fire. There's no Outer Worlds 3 in response to the Outer Worlds 2's failure, so I don't know why you would do Avowed 2 if Avowed 1 did not do well. I don't think, especially because Avowed is like, by and large, again, in my opinion, their worst game. Like, I love a lot of their games, but I don't think Avowed is very good. I don't see a reason to double down on that when you're in such a risk-averse environment. It's different if you're willing to take a risk. I'm like, yeah, Avowed 2, it could be interesting. I still deep down feel that way, but if you're trying to avoid risk and maintain your studio's future, I don't think doubling down on a game that flopped and making a sequel on that's going to take years and millions of dollars is a good idea. So could this funnel into what Bethesda's talking about a bit? With more team-wide collaboration, funneling the staff into their best IP. Does this mean Obsidian gets teed up for a part of their squad to support whatever Bethesda Game Studios does with Fallout? I wonder if a new mainline entry could fall to Obsidian or another company instead of Bethesda Game Studios. Because right now, the roadmap would suggest Elder Scrolls 6 and then Fallout 5. And Fallout 5 would no doubt be mid-2030s. That's ridiculous with the show going on now. So someone's got to move the mainline entry up next. And it won't be Bethesda Game Studios. They might oversee it. So it's got to be someone else. Could it be Obsidian? Interesting conversation to have there. There's more, though. This comes from GameFile. Let's move into sort of the general fallout from Xbox Game Studios as well. Undead Labs here, the section here I thought was interesting was they said the Seattle-based studio behind the upcoming zombie game State of Decay 3, which was shown off by Microsoft at its June gaming showcase, is planned to continue under a new owner. Microsoft has entered terms with a new owner, though the parties are not ready to announce who that will be, likely later this summer. My prediction is still 2K. A source familiar with today's restructuring plan told GameFile. The deal calls for continued funding and eventual release of State of Decay 3, but will not obligate the game to be on any Xbox controlling terms, such as having it be on Game Pass. This is another thing we're starting to see a bit, and I got to wonder about the Game Pass experiment if it's paying off here. But we're starting to see companies take a mostly made game, say Xbox has to provide funding, and then not put it on Game Pass. So that company that's going to help publish it is going to take some of that cut too. Xbox, you may as well have just kept them. Again, I don't know. Weird way to handle it, but I'm not running the business. So they could be changing how things go with Game Pass. Here's the update from Blizzard. This was a note from Blizzard President Johanna Ferries. They write, Blizzard, Asha shared updates regarding a planned reset across Xbox with many colleagues across the division being impacted. While you can expect to hear more details regarding the day's events and what this may mean for Blizzard in future communications, for now, I simply want to acknowledge that today is a difficult day that impacts many people. Please take care of yourselves. In light of today's news, I want to thank everyone. So she's planting the seeds here. No layoffs at Blizzard yet. They'll be part of Wave 2 once they assess things further, which makes me wonder if they're going to funnel things through the Call of Duty operation. There were rumors that like Halo, Doom, all these games could funnel into the Activision operation. Be very interesting to see how that goes. I don't know if making all your first-person shooters under that one engine and that one brand would be a good idea. But we see that Blizzard has yet to be heavily impacted, but they seem to be part of Wave 2. other things that are happening as part of these layoffs. Elder Scrolls Online was in the midst of a pretty interesting comeback. It wasn't like awful, but a lot of people were like losing interest. And here we have this post update from the community manager where they say, as we get ready to launch season 1, we want to reaffirm our commitment to ESO. Our team's immediate focus is launching season 1, which we're excited about you jumping into. Looking beyond season 1, the roadmaps we previously shared will be shifting. We want to take the time to evaluate the work in front of us and then lock down an updated schedule. While we'd love to share concrete details today, stepping back to get our plans straight will let us come back to you with a clear timeline. This game is nothing without you, our community. Thanks for sticking with us and everything you bring to Tamriel. So yeah, like they also hit the ESO team apparently pretty hard to the point where there was also another Kotaku report that suggested they don't know if how they're going to be able to continue ESO with such a fragmented team. Keep in mind, this is a team that already got hit once last year pretty hard. They got hit because they were laying off the whole team working on Project Blackbird. One of Phil Spencer's greatest failures, in my opinion. The guy who was cheesily holding the controller and playing all happily and then proceeds to lay the team off like a week later. Just, it reads so spineless. But now they're getting hit again. And this is where, again, I need to understand the mindset behind Xbox. Okay, Elder Scrolls is one of your focuses. ESO made money from what we understand, a lot of money. But now you're hurting the team and dissecting them for parts when they're supposed to maintain this thing. My guess is ESO will enter a Star Wars The Old Republic-like maintenance mode. I think it's just going to go down that route where it's just going to be like, hey, it exists, and any content you get is going to be a slow rollout over time. And they're basically just going to take money from their existing fans until they can sunset this thing. And that the real focus is TES 6. Last little note here as part of the fallout from Xbox's reset was this interesting little tidbit here. Rafael Colantonio saying, regarding Arcane, how much I'm asking for a friend, when it came to Asha talking about how they were assessing what was happening with Arcane thanks to French labor laws. I don't know how much money Rafael Colantonio has. Would be really interesting to see this type of play here, because for those who don't know, he was formerly of Arcane. He was responsible for games alongside Harvey Smith, like Dishonored, and then went on to make Prey at Arcane Austin, which he would then leave as they would go on to make Redfall, and Harvey would move over and help direct that one. And I mean, Harvey's incredible, but he's only one man. So I would be interested to see where this whole Rafael Colantonio angle goes. He's, admittedly presenting this in a bit of a facetious way, but if he can save Arcane, that'd be so sick. That'd be so sick. I do think there's a world where people would crowdfund that thing. I'm not gonna lie. I would help throw some money at a company that wants to keep Arcane afloat, because I think Arcane's style of game, even if I wasn't a huge fan of Deathloop, and I don't know what Prey or Blade will be like, there is a reality where like, who else is making games like them? It's super rare. But nonetheless, Rafael Colantonio, one of my goats. Love him. Curious to see where that goes. But that's what's been basically happening the following day after everything's happened with the Xbox reset. Pretty chaotic out there. And I guess the main point to emphasize here is a lot is very unclear. We still have a lot unanswered. We do have clear answers on things like the future of the studios being released from Xbox's clutches. And I do think that can result in some good things. And certainly a lot of worst case scenarios were avoided. But I do also think that the worst has yet to pass, because we don't really understand what they're doing to support these franchises. Again, I don't know how you say Doom and Quake are major franchises we're focusing on, if Schreier is to be believed, and Schreier's usually right on the money, and then you gut half of id. What is the idea? What is the thinking behind that? I think we just need another inside report. So we'll see. My guess is like they're going to lean as well into AI development pretty heavily to offset costs, to make use of a smaller number of staff, and to try to amplify their production. Time will tell. I'm just a mere man making guesses, but again, the worst has yet to pass, I think. So we'll see how this reset pays off. A lot of necessary things done. Again, I'm not going to argue against getting rid of 14 layers of middle management, but how they manage this IP will be everything that impacts us as players, and it'll say a lot about how Asha Sharma actually plans to run this company. So time will tell. Chad, I want to hear from you. How are we feeling about the fallout from the reset of Xbox? And generally speaking, how Asha Sharma is navigating this, what you think they're going to do with this sort of consolidation of so many different pieces within Xbox's portfolio. Just a lot to unpack here. So hit me with your thoughts, man. I'm very curious to see what chat's thinking as I get this one up here. Fallout from Xbox reset. We'll call this one. Put this up. Can't wait for Doom on Unreal Engine. Oof. I think Asha's making the most of a bad situation, but time will tell. I agree. Pretty good read. How do you think the remaining staff are feeling about more layoffs incoming? I don't think they're feeling good at all. I don't think it's a good environment to motivate someone to give their all when their fate is sealed. It was necessary. I'm optimistic. Uncertainty is my vibe. Yeah, uncertainty is a good word. I like that. This has been expected, but Undead Labs is a mistake. Agreed. Agreed completely. Do not like the Undead Labs move. I think they are going to regret that one. Oh shit! I just remember Emmett's not around. Oh yeah, he's having it. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, I'll have to handle this myself. No worries. I was about to send it to him. I was like, oh yeah, we had like a fucking conversation about this. I feel for everyone. I've had layoffs hanging over my head at my job for 8 months now. It's exhausting. I'm sorry to hear that, Papa Smurf. Just kind of waiting for the axe to fall. It's tough. I like Asha's statement until the billion players part. That was really tone deaf and just for stakeholders. Yeah. Good read. I agree. I gotta blow my nose again. Sorry. Don't forget, in Exile, there will likely be a studio that can come in, all support Fallout. Maybe. They're certainly a sacrificial lamb, is how I read it. I worry a little bit about them. Let me get our second story up here in the meantime. Oh, I gotta get the Elder Scrolls music rolling. Oh, Kurtz, great question about why I haven't done a Lightning Returns retrospective. I haven't played much of it, to tell you the truth. So it's something I need to catch up on, and then put respect on it. So it'll come. It'll come. I also kind of held up because there were rumors that I think at the point we were doing the reset, it was a mistake. I held up because a lot of people were saying that like we might get a trilogy re-release or something like that. Obviously, that has not come to pass. I just want to know what percentage of the layoffs were fake jobs. That'd be interesting, Mosca. I imagine that at least a decent chunk of them, if at least in the middle management comment, kind of points to that. So it's possible. I'd like a percentage too. That'd be very nice to see. More numbers. More numbers are always good. Beloved Emperor, thank you for your super chat. Are they morphing it into something like World's Edge? Why, Matty? God, why? Oh no, I don't know, man. I really don't know what the plan with it is. It's really tough to read. I imagine they're going to get support from someone else, or they're leaning on AI. I think all the answers point to like worst case scenario, or they're getting rid of id Tech and they're working on Unreal Engine. Hard to say. Hard to say and depressing. For sure, they're the most depressing outcome of it all. Red Eyes, thank you for this kind super chat. Watching you since Fallout 4 was a rumor. Appreciate your studio news. Laid off 3D artist, transitioning field since the industry future looks bleak. Much love. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I mean, this is exactly what I've been talking about. You just lose people who are like talents, you know? People just get laid off and they go to different fields, and then gaming suffers for it. So I'm sorry to hear this, but you gotta take care of yourself first, bro. I can't blame you. Thank you for the support, though. I appreciate you. ESO is morphing into what EverQuest 2 did, in my opinion. I don't know much about EverQuest 2, so I will trust you on this. Quail, this sounds good. I have not messed around with Bazite just Jack. Jimmy Champagne has, though. He's talked to me a bit about it. And so, him and I think Spawnwave. I think Spawnwave might have. I've not messed with it much, though. I don't trust myself too much with that. Jesse says, I hope they revive Wolfenstein. Well, I think you're going to get your wish from what rumors are saying. EverQuest 2 got an expansion in December. It's 22 years old. Oh! Well, now. Well, now. I don't think I'd hate that, personally. I can't be anywhere near an online game with a chat box. Yeah, I kind of bailed out of online gaming a while ago for the most part. MMOs are a little bit of a different breed. Like, the chat box is part of the experience. Like, I remember in RuneScape when I was younger, just like chatting with people as I was farming skills. I thought that was fun. I enjoyed it. Oh, Jonathan. He says, hey, Matty, finished Persona 5 Royal for the first time yesterday and easily a top 10 to 5 game of all time for me. Love to hear it, man. Yeah, certified banger. League is so toxic, dude. Retiring is yeah, League. Oh, man, I love League. I love League, man. I miss playing League, but it is so addicting. Yeah. It is so addicting. I just love a good MOBA. Like, one of my most played games on PS4 was the Smite port. Ah. Man. Good times. Decision to lay off animators, artists, and coders at id is enough to make me never support Xbox again. Extremely unfortunate for a legendary team. Yeah, this is dismantling of legacy, dude. For sure. For a lot of people. A lot of long tenured talent there. Especially the day before their new expansion launches. You know, that's a rough look. Again, I just want to know what the plan is. Like, okay, you're going to do this. Can you make it make sense? My guess, obviously, is that Doom the Dark Ages did not do very well. I think that much is obvious. I don't know how well Doom Eternal did either. I think Doom 2016 did really well. And I think Doom Eternal, you know, certainly was popular, but I don't know how well it sold, all things considered. And I think Game Pass, from what we read by estimates of Alinea Analytics, really hurt Doom the Dark Ages, and then they paid a price for it. So that's the other weird part. It's very unfortunate. I don't blame this reaction from you, Jenna, at all. I think it's totally fair. And, yeah, I mean, again, I just wonder how id's going to approach their future IP, especially if they're working on something new like Quake. Boomer shooters aren't well suited for high-budget games, I think. It's not a bad read, Turtle Deity. I think you might be onto something there. Who's ready for a little more slop? Let's let this thing rip. All right. Feel free to spam your mean emojis down here. Please and thank you. Okay. Let's do this. Do I have everything? Sorry, let me just double check. Okay. Got everything I need. All right, let's do this. Here we go. Time for the slop. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to have a good, honest conversation about Xbox Game Pass. Today, we kind of discuss how the experiment has failed. And that doesn't mean Game Pass is going away forever, but I do think Game Pass, as we know it, is going to change. Let me just establish a couple of starting points here so people don't misread my intentions. I love Game Pass. I am not subscribed to it, though. I unsubscribed when Xbox jacked the prices. I figured I don't need to give them money every single month and that I'll make more educated purchasing decisions when I bring my money to their platform. They don't need to get a free, at that point, 30 out of me before they drop the price. But even before that, I'm like, you know what? The way my gaming habits are, it doesn't really align with Game Pass. I like to do one game at a time. I don't need a whole library. I have a whole library here in my house. So a lot of things just made me become not aligned with Game Pass, but I don't think that means that that is the same situation for everyone else. I think about growing up, gaming was not really affordable outside of trading credits. Why I'm very passionate about physical games, because I was able to recycle those into new experiences. Game Pass let you get in for pretty cheap, and I think as a kid, I especially would have loved Game Pass and the wealth of options that were there, and the ability to try before you buy to a certain extent. But now looking at what Game Pass has done to the business, as we'll talk about today, I think it has failed as a central point. This is, to me, much like Games with Gold, where I think it would continue on, although we don't have Games with Gold anymore. But those who were subscribed for Xbox Live Gold know this is a thing. Eventually, Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold conflicted a bit. This was a little bit easier to solve because Game Pass was so obviously better. They just had to gradually sunset Xbox Live Gold, but the problem was still the same. A lot of people were subscribed to Xbox Games for Gold for $10 a month. And that was millions and millions and millions of dollars that they were trying to kind of shift over into Game Pass if they could. And eventually they just folded that all into Xbox Game Pass Core, which was like their $10 subscription. Now, it wouldn't surprise me with all of this in mind if, say, by next July, we're talking about a new form of Game Pass that is being wound down into a place where it's not doing day one games anymore. And we're looking at what is basically a PlayStation Plus equivalent that works for the Xbox audience. Let's start off with why we know this is a failure. And it's simply because of what Asha Sharma said in her letter. For those who do not remember, I'd like to just recap that with you all. She wrote, "Our business is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than the comparable platform and publishing business. We entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content." So literally the Phil Spencer Sarah Bond strategy. "While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome." So more middle management, that's the 14 layers. More investment, that's Activision. More teams, more time, more just money everywhere. "And now the industry is facing its most severe hardware crisis in history. We must reset Xbox. First, we reset our content portfolio. Since 2018, we've aggressively expanded our studio portfolio while the number of games created each month across the industry now outpaces the last 10 years combined. We now find ourselves competing not only with the largest publishers, but also the smallest independent studios. It is neither possible nor desirable to own every great independent studio. We have also learned that we're not the best home for every type of studio in a typical year, and we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. As we reset Xbox, we will help independent creators succeed by providing open development tools and audiences to realize their vision." So We learned here that to grow, they bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, broader portfolio. This did not work. What usually happens when things don't work, you go in the opposite direction. You try something new. The way forward that we all knew is no longer the same. That means Game Pass is not the primary bet to grow the platform. And if that weren't enough, let's just take a look at the numbers here. The last update we did get on Game Pass numbers was back February 2024. And yes, that was when we saw the whole Band-Aid rip happen where Phil, Sarah, Matt Booty sat down and talked about this new multi-platform push here. It's there we learned that Xbox Game Pass now had 34 million fully paid subscribers. This was because they threw in Diablo 4 as a gimme as part of like just a little fuck you kind of thing. They tossed in there like, yeah. Like, we're going multi-plat, but Game Pass owners will continue to win just like they did with Diablo 4. Let's get a good promo in here while everyone thinks our business is falling through the floor here. But yeah, 34 million was the last number that we had seen. This was obviously after the FTC trials had happened where we had learned that Xbox wanted to hit 100 million. Since then, we have now gotten a new number update, and that was just very recently here. This comes from gamesindustry.biz. Xbox Game Pass subscriber count is less than 50% of its original target. Xbox Game Pass subscription apparently has around 30 million users. So we're like down almost 5 million. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which reports that a person familiar with the situation said that the service boasts in the region of 30 million subscribers. That's well below 77 million user projection that Microsoft had for Game Pass by 2026, revealed in the legal proceedings surrounding its mega acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So again, last number we got is 34 million. They lost millions of subscribers in response to the Game Pass price hike. Frankly, I thought it'd be a little bit more, but still enough to make them change prices because they lost a ton of revenue on that. And not only that, they're not even halfway to their 2026 goal, which means it's scratched, and they're not going to hit that 100 million goal. I mean, they, in fairness, I think put their best foot forward. Everything day one. We're paying third party for day one. We're putting our own games there. We're on every platform. We're keeping it cheap and affordable. You can stream these things. We're gonna pack in other like EA Play, Ubisoft classics. Like they packed this thing to the brim. They did, in my opinion, all they could. The reality is this is not the way forward. The experiment, as I said, has really failed. And especially when it stops becoming a deal and it now has to become a subscription service you think about, that number will likely sit around 30 million. But still, to the point, it can still continue to exist in some capacity. I think when people think about the Game Pass experiment failing, they're like, get rid of it. You're going to get rid of 30 million subscribers who are all paying at a minimum $10 a month? Get real, okay? That's the part that we're not going to fall into. That's a trap. They want to keep that money. They want to probably not build their business around that model, though. So how do you start to unpack that? We've already seen what they're going to do. This happened in April with the Game Pass Ultimate price cut. Beginning this year, future Call of Duty titles won't join Game Pass Ultimate or PC Game Pass at launch. New Call of Duty games will be added to Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass during the following holiday season, about a year later, while existing Call of Duty titles already in the library will continue to be available. And this is how they're going to wean you off. They're going to target you with FOMO. That's why all of these Xbox games that were shown off at the summer showcase, your Halo, your Gears, your Fable, have 5-day early access plans because they want you to cave in on that. They want you to buy the game full price. And if you wait, then you can get it in your subscription service, but you might cave when it goes on sale at some point. Or if they continue to support physical media, maybe you see it used in a game store somewhere. I don't know. Point being is that they're already starting to show that there is a limit to what Game Pass can afford to put in its service. And I do think this applies to certain franchises. Elder Scrolls 6. I think this is questionable for Game Pass. I think another one that's questionable for Game Pass would definitely be Forza Horizon moving forward. I don't know how they don't look at the player counts they've been seeing for that and go, after everything we sold on PlayStation with Horizon 5, yeah, man, like maybe it would have been better trying to sell that again to everyone with 6 and not having a day one in Game Pass. They're losing tons and tons of money on this, right? A good example of this, again, was Call of Duty, where they put Black Ops 6 in the service, and it was, $300 million that they ended up losing. It completely had Game Pass bottom out, And so the only way they could try to recover was here to stop the bleeding by making you buy the game. And I think that's the way this industry goes around. I don't know if you can build around a subscription service, because at least with movies, you can extract some value. Because I could sit down on a Saturday afternoon and say like, hey, I'm on my couch from like 3 p.m. to 10 at night. And you can get a lot of movies packed into that window, depending on their length, at least a couple, right? Obviously, unless you're watching like Lord of the Rings extended cuts, but you get the idea that you can get more out of that. You can finish things. With gaming though, if Fable, for example, is in Game Pass, for those who are not like me and many others who like, I play games as part of a living, but also like I'm obsessed with them. So like I'm playing them often. I'm putting dozens and dozens of hours into games every week, but that's not normal per se. A lot of people who are buying Fable, that's their game for months. And that's awesome. In a lot of ways, I kind of miss that day and age, but that's how people approach this stuff. So Game Pass is inherently against all of that. Even if you sign up for the cheap one-time deal, you're like, oh, I'm going to get Fable and I'm going to bump out. Xbox continues the flat line, right? It just continues to be a plateau for them. There's no growth in that, which is what we've been saying for a while on Defining Duke. So again, I think with games like Fable, when it's so big, you're not even going to take advantage of the rest of the content library. And if it's going to be your game for multiple months, then you may as well just buy it. You know, that's where I think a lot of people end up, especially with the price going up. I may as well just own this thing. And so I think Game Pass needs to exist as a content library, as a supplemental offering to what Xbox is doing. But I do think it inherently needs to change to match what Asha Sharma is saying here. Asha Sharma is saying, we bet big on this. We invested in all these studios because of this. And now we're spinning out those studios that were designed to feed Xbox Game Pass. When you no longer, I know we all have very critical thoughts on companies like Compulsion, Double Fine, as well as Ninja Theory. But those were smaller teams that were supposed to be making tighter games that were quicker to make and fueling Game Pass. When they started to take 7 years, you could just argue right then and there Game Pass's strategy was done, because a lot of us thought we'd be getting multiple games from Ninja Theory in the time that Xbox had purchased them. Can you think about that? Xbox bought Ninja Theory. We had Bleeding Edge, and then we got Hellblade 2, and that was it. With Compulsion, it was literally just south of midnight. And Double Fine, at least you got Psychonauts 2, which is God tier. But then you got Keeper and Kiln after years of silence. It's unbelievable to think about. I can understand why they thought these teams would be quick producers with smaller games, and they ended up turning around and being like, yeah, we're just going to take like 8 years and give you like one thing that's 10 hours long. That's not good for any part of the business, let alone even trying to sell the game. So in unraveling themselves from these teams, Undead Labs withstanding, who I think would have fit the Game Pass formula because of a co-op driven nature of State of Decay 3, I do think that this is part of a stepping away from Xbox Game Pass, and that they're going to try to avoid this a little bit more. Now, what happens to third party is the other question mark here. Obviously, I think they're going to ride this stuff out too. What we've got here is a report from Windows Central, which has a quote from Fernando Rizzo of Caboodle Games, who was talking on the Business of Gaming podcast. He said this: I was at a trade show in Italy, had some nice lunches, some nice dinners with industry colleagues. Word on the street was that loads of people who were in the frame for Game Pass deals, you know, nothing was inked yet, but the deals were in advanced discussions. Everybody got the rug pulled out from under them. So there was some form of a freezing spending freeze. I got that backwards. But then Jez Corden provided an update here after the article had gone live. He said, no update from Microsoft, but a trusted source suggested to me that my analysis is correct. There are no blanket plans to end funding for third-party games on Game Pass. Any recent run of frozen discussions revolves around Microsoft's fiscal year ending and Xbox's reset plan. And we saw this play out a little bit with things like Xbox Game Studios funding whatever Project Fantasy was, and they're going to put their money somewhere else now. So that's where we're starting to see things here, but there was a freeze of some kind. And a lot of these developers did have the rugs pulled out from under them. So this is an element of truth. But it seems like they will continue to fund third party to some extent, but are they going to take some of that Game Pass money and start putting it into their own first party? You know, we saw how they're focusing on major franchises. Would it make more sense to maybe fund someone else working on a Fallout, Halo, funding an Elder Scrolls game, that sort of stuff, instead of getting a day one Game Pass game from third party that otherwise isn't going to grow the service and making more money? So again, I'm seeing these little gentle signs of detaching and unraveling, where I think the way we know Game Pass, traditionally speaking, is going to change. But I think they're going to do it slowly because, again, you're messing with 30 million subscribers. That is still a metric ton of money. And if you think about just like even the bottom number of that subscription poll, like $10 each, think of how much money they're making per month just off Game Pass alone. So there is a reason to sustain and keep that. But I think they're going to have to gradually untangle things like day one, because it's just in opposition to what they need to do, which is sell games to make money, as we see them trending in that direction. I don't think, again, this is another thing that conflicts with them. Like, oh, we want 1 billion people entertained each day, but you're also doing exclusives. So part of me thinks, like, if you want to do exclusives, you need to sell them. So Game Pass day one also has to go in that scenario as well. But if you want to entertain 1 billion people, you need Game Pass. So there's a level of inconsistency here that I'm detecting, and a lot of it is just chaos and figuring things out and not really knowing what the true situation is. Like, I think in a lot of ways, Xbox doesn't even know. I think they're just gradually assessing it as it comes along and tackling it with some level of urgency, which I can certainly appreciate. But I do think Game Pass's days as we know it are numbered. And this is why Cog and I always said on Defining Duke that, look, when it comes to Game Pass, bro, take advantage while it's here, because eventually it'll go, and at least you got some good value out of it. And so I don't regret my time with Game Pass, but I moved on once my purchasing habits and playing habits changed. That may be different for other people who lean heavily into Game Pass, but I still think the library will always be there to some extent. Anyway, Game Pass, major changes inbound. Give it a year. I'm sure we'll be having a whole different conversation about this subscription service and what exactly it's going to be like. Chad, I want to hear from you. How attached are you to Xbox Game Pass? I don't really know how attached people are nowadays. Like, do we want to see a shake up there? Are we upset that Game Pass and its experiment kind of failed? Curious where we're at on all of this. Let me know, chat. For sure, Xbox are reactive and stumbling through this. There's no master plan. Yeah, can't be a master plan. Vacanzo says, I don't give a fuck. Super attached, couldn't care anymore. I like to own my games. I paid a minimum just to game online with my family. Makes sense. Yeah, free online gaming needs to be a standard. It's ridiculous that console players are even paying for it. Sucks, but it was doubtful if something like that could work under a company like Microsoft. That too. If Xbox can't sustain a service that receives $450 million a year on average, it's not devs that like id that should suffer for that ineptitude. Yeah, could fund a lot of games with that money. Yeah, I'm not a Game Pass guy. Don't blame you. All right, let's catch up a little bit here. Xbox being allowed to lay off roughly half of its software is insane. Directly shows the FTC should have blocked the acquisition. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going back to Lena Khan and be like, she was right all along. That's a Hogue Law question. I'm not really sure about that. I think the potential with Xbox and Bethesda was real. It's now obviously completely unrealized. Like, they failed. But there was a lot of potential in that one, and I think it made sense. But clearly, the whole Game Pass thing fucked things up terribly. Brad Phillips says, I think one or both Undead Labs and Ninja Theory go to Krafton. They seem cozy to Xbox and the whole Tango thing. Oh, God. I mean, like, I'm not saying like you're wrong. I'm saying like Krafton saying they're just all in on AI. Scary, dude. I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that. Run if you can. Colin tweeted, the very same people who vociferously cheered Microsoft's acquisitions and religiously supported Game Pass while it was clearly failing are not being held accountable. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think there always has to be rationale in the conversation, and I think a lot of fanboys did not hold that rationale. I mean, that's something that him and I have talked about pretty extensively on a lot of Sacred Symbols Plus episodes, or when he guested on Defining Duke. Like, you know, the value is clear. I think the money and coming in from Game Pass is clear. Like I would disagree with Colin on sort of the Game Pass money being a problem. I think it's that they built their whole business around it, and that was the problem. And I think Game Pass still could have grown with the way they were handling it, because they were kind of first in the market with that stuff in a lot of ways, like them and I guess like Humble Bundle. So I would disagree with Colin on like the whole idea that Game Pass is like the initial place to blame. It's really how they tried to structure the entire business around this subscription service and growing that. As for cheering the acquisitions, I mean, like, dude, I talked about it with him before. Like, it was like totally vociferously cheered is different from, I'll say it this way. I know who Colin's talking about. I'm like, I can name every person that he's talking about. I know it doesn't apply to me, but I've also called myself out on I was definitely naive about the acquisitions for sure. I definitely did not understand the ramifications that they could really have. And I mean, I definitely learned the hard way with like my favorite publisher of games, Bethesda. So it's a valuable lesson to learn. You know, it definitely, I think, again, had a lot of potential and benefits there, but Xbox completely pivoted their business strategy after buying Bethesda and moving into Activision. They like finally got that exclusive games rollout going with things like Hi-Fi Rush and Starfield. And like, we were like, okay, this is a glimpse of the future. And right as that was just getting rolling, they went multi-plat. So we didn't really even get to reap the benefits as I think an Xbox fan base of like what that Bethesda exclusive lineup would really have done for the brand throughout the rest of the generation. We thought at least we'd have until then for things to play out. But definitely at the end of the day, I eat it. I'm like, yeah, I was wrong. Like it definitely, I think Bethesda was fucked either way though. That's the other thing that a lot of people miss in the context of this all is I think Bethesda was like truly fucked. I broke this down in my mini video essay, but still it doesn't mean that it was all going to be, it could have gone either way with Bethesda. With Activision though, oh boy, terrible. 7/6 was my birthday. Gee, thanks, Xbox. Sorry, Chris, bro. I hope you had a good birthday otherwise. Stay offline for the rest of your birthday, please. Really, how bad was Bethesda fucked? Well, to answer that game life crisis, I mean, I have a whole video on it. Bethesda was assessing their failures and went straight into live service. So, like, when they went into things like Redfall, 76, Wolfenstein Youngblood, like, they were just trying to extract as much money as possible, likely to inflate their value so they could sell off to Xbox, but also because their single-player games like Wolfenstein 2, The Evil Within 2 were not doing well, and it scared the fuck out of them. The only company that was producing a lot of money was Bethesda Game Studios, and they could only produce so much because they took forever to make their stuff. And I think that's what led to things like creations and monetizing the existing Bethesda Game Studios fan base. So when the bottom was falling out and Xbox came in, like a lot of people thought this would stabilize Bethesda's single player push. And it, by all intents and purposes, did. But they had to they released Redfall. That was terrible. Shut down Arcane. Is going to shut down another Arcane studio probably. Gutted id. At least we saw Doom the Dark Ages come out. Starfield came out. Yeah, they did go back to single player for the most part, but the bottom was definitely falling out for Bethesda. Prey as well, yeah. Yeah, Prey, Dishonored 2 didn't sell well, yeah. Like, there were a lot of games that didn't do well for Bethesda. So, that's the thing I always try to bring up is, like, I'll eat crow on, like, the acquisitions and how they didn't pay out well, but I also think that for Bethesda, it was totally defendable stance to have. People won't hear that argument, but I think it was fair. How much of Xbox's failure can be blamed on the ABK, though? I thought the 30% margin was the underlying issue, and that was driven by Microsoft's AI spending. I think when you spend the most we've ever seen in a tech merger, you bring the ISR on you. And there's a certain level of attention that you don't want to have on you when you're Xbox functioning within a big corporation like Microsoft. And I think Phil Spencer flew too close to the sun. And I think he knew better, but he still went for it. I just can't see how Colin sees $5 billion in revenue was a bad bet. Game Pass was attached to console, and going multi-platform was just a terrible choice. Yeah, I think there's nuance to it. I know Colin's like vehemently against Game Pass, but that's like fine. I don't really care as much, but yeah, I mean, I don't agree with Colin fully on Game Pass. We align on a couple elements in Game Pass, but by and large, I don't think I fully align with Colin on Game Pass. So I think that money just was spent poorly as well. Colin's attitude towards Sony going all digital bothers me. Guys, go to Colin's stream. He streams. You can tell him all of this, and he'll happily hear you out. This man almost left Sony to go full PC when his account got hijacked 2 months ago. Now he's being all snarky with his announcement. Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely think I haven't listened to Colin's take on the physical game stuff. We were considering doing a Sacred Plus. I told him I was available for it if he wanted me to. I don't know if we're still doing it, but I was going to wait until then to see what he thinks. I don't know if Colin's really like, is he really on? I don't know. I don't want to talk about something I don't know much about, but like, if he's being like blah about it, your boy's got it covered. I'll talk to him about it. But overall, yeah, like, people like Colin who have a digital-only library and know how, like, vulnerable PSN is, like, I can't imagine anyone wanting them to go full digital until that's all taken care of. Oh, dude, the stream yesterday was driving me crazy. Oh, no. Colin was already having at it. Matty, they're laying off id engineers, for fuck's sake. It's insanity. They could keep them around to help with the general game engine work. Absolute tragic waste. I agree, because those are some of the best engineers in the business, and guess what? They're going to leave gaming, and they're going to go make hundreds of thousands of dollars somewhere else. That's what's going to happen. At least for most of them. Like, they're just going to be like, I'm good at this, bro. Like, I'm just going to go make money in the tech sector somewhere else and just cash in. Engineers, programmers, artists, all of them, they're just going to go. That's what's going to happen. We're at that point now. They're just going to go. And it's a shame. UNSC, I'd rather Microsoft use $70 billion on the games industry than something else. Honestly, although the layoffs do suck. Keep up the good work, Matty. Thank you for your support here. That is true. $70 billion in the games industry isn't a bad thing. Bobby Kotick got his golden parachute, though. That's for damn sure. Colin's way more nuanced about the physical thing. He doesn't care for himself, but does care for those who do. That's all you can ask for. I don't think the thing that I think a lot of digital bros are misunderstanding with people like me online is I'm not asking you to emulate my purchasing habits. The only thing I'm asking for you to do is join me as a brother in arms so that you can keep your game prices and I can keep my way of playing. That's all we're asking for, because you need the physical market, because otherwise we're all getting jammed into the same storefront and we're going to get fucked with prices. No one wants that. So we are brothers in arms whether you like it or not. Son of Gondor, thank you for becoming a member. Your chat is crazy. The new Sacred, he literally talked about how Sony had to address security and licenses ASAP if they're going down this route. Yeah, I mean, look, this is why I said I didn't really want to talk about Colin's content, not because I don't want to talk about him. But we don't need to dog on the homie, bro. Like, Colin's a friend, and at the end of the day, I don't know his take, and so you guys coming in and telling me like I hate his take. It's like, okay, I totally respect that, but like I can't offer any commentary on it because I haven't heard it. And I'm also like, I'm close enough friends with Colin where I can go talk to him personally, and like I don't need to debate him on a public stage. When I say debate him, I don't mean like discuss his takes publicly. I don't know. To me, there's something kind of like, how would I describe it? Since I know him personally, I'd rather be like, hey, if he were to be as you guys were describing, which it doesn't sound like is the case, but if he were to be so like vehemently against physical media, I would just like be like, yo, let's do Sacred Plus and like let's just put word to microphone and let's just talk about this. That's why like I mentioned to him in our staff chat, I was like, hey, if you need me, let me know. I was like, I'm happy to step up on Sacred Plus and help out as we can. Colin loves to troll the audience who's playing it up for the stream. Oh, Colin. He doesn't give a fuck. He's funny. I haven't bought a physical game in like 5 years and switching back to physical, and I care about this and its ramifications. My man, the Rook. A physical copy in those muscular hands, I can only imagine. This dude will curl like 40,000 copies of Prey on Xbox. Thank you, Rook. Appreciate you, dude. PR Xbox said Xbox is in discussion whether or not to ship Helix with a disk drive now. Yeah, I imagine they're waiting to see if Sony pivots, but also, again, like I said earlier, I do think G-Mania, what could happen here is if Xbox wants to really play to hardcore gamers, they can win big here. They could, if they want to. But I don't know if they want to. So, we'll see. I say I don't know if they want to because it's about like if they're resetting the business and they're going like this, they could focus on the hardcore gamer and be like, let's focus on physical. Let's focus on a disc drive. Let's rebuild our reputation. Like that would be a true reset, in my opinion. Take the bottom out from PlayStation a little bit. I think a lot of people would jump ship. I don't know how many, but I think a lot would. I think it matters that much for enough few million people at the very least. And I think there's enough people who are converting over, who are seeing like, oh, this really threatens the hobby. You know, it's beyond just like, oh, Matty likes to do his little complete in box experience on Retro Rebound, the nerd. Like, it's beyond that. It's like, it affects your wallet, you know, even if you don't give a fuck. All right. Deported Sicilian gamers cooking right now. Thank you, bro. I don't think it's being talked about how disproportionately the fallout is hurting Western devs and affecting Japanese far less. How might this affect the industry long term? Yeah, I do think this does get a little in the politics. The cost of living is shit, right? It's bad pretty much everywhere. But there are places like the United States, which were like considered for a long time the land of opportunity, in many ways still is. But that it is so fucking expensive to live in parts of the States. Particularly parts of the United States where game development is centralized. And I do think the effect long-term could be the decentralization of game development communities. I do think that you might see more investment in other parts of the U.S. I think getting away from the pool of talent in California, not only for, you know, I'm not even trying to make it political, but just like diversity of thought and approach, but also just like general diversity of like location. Like we've seen with games like Expedition, how your love for a place that you live in can really influence your game. You know, it's all about France at the end of the day with the Eiffel Tower and everything. It's all about France in a lot of ways. And it's beautiful for that. What if a game development team from the Midwest were to, you know, do something like that? There is Midwest Games. That is a small kind of shadow publisher is what they do. Very interesting business there. But there are different places in the States that I think could benefit from an investment in game development and not just major cities. So I think that could be a big benefit, potentially, is the decentralization in United States-led game development. We've seen game development grow in a lot of different pockets of the world, like South America, India, Korea, of course, China, big time. It's growing globally, and I think what we're seeing is like it was very top-heavy in the States, and we're seeing it kind of even out. And that gives you a lot of options. If talent is growing globally and it's cheaper to live in different parts of the world, then companies like Xbox that are no stranger to contracted deals might be able to benefit from like signing on teams across the world, forming partnerships with them, and making their games that way. It's very like factory approach. Remember when the tariffs kicked in and we saw like Nintendo moving their whole operation, or was it Xbox, like moving their operation to like Vietnam or something like that because it was cheaper to produce stuff there. Those sorts of things I think are happening now in game development, where game development is going to become a more practice skill, a more accessible skill. And then I think talent around the globe will be able to assist anywhere, anyway, anyhow. And you no longer just need to go to California, basically. And so a lot of people will take that as like a political statement, but it's not even that. It's just like, I think decentralizing game development could be pretty good. I think work culture is part of it too. I mean, I showed you that clip from earlier with Double Fine. And look, dude, like there is something wrong with United States culture in many fucking ways, bro. And I'm not talking one side or the other. I'm just talking generally as a people. It's bad. You know, and so I do think like there's a hard-working approach to developers from China who are working for less and doing more, and in Japan. And I do think that is benefiting them a lot. But also, again, the cost of living in Japan is super low. And like when you see the raises they get in their average salary, it's way lower compared to what we have here in the States. So there's a lot to it. Just, But I do think, to answer your question, long term, decentralization can be good, but I think we're in for a continued bumpy ride for the near term. If Helix is shipping with a disc drive, I don't care how much it costs. I'm buying it. Just bought a complete Yakuza series on Xbox, and I'm excited to play them. Nice, dude. That's awesome. When it comes to Yakuza, that's a series that I really, really want to catch up on. But it's awesome that you bought that physically. As for the Helix, I'm with you guys. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I am not trying to come across like an activist, but I just really feel more than ever I need to put my money where my purchasing habits are being supported. Like, okay, Steam and GOG should be I already have a Steam library, but GOG needs to get more of my money, clearly. I can't just do that as a pit stop like I usually do. Like, I need to go over to GOG and really support what they do there with their classic games program. It's excellent. They need to be like more of a first thought for me. Nintendo Switch 2, I'm not like a graphics and frame rate guy, so like I think their ports are fine, and so I'm looking forward to buying games that are fully on cart there, and I would like to spend my money there where my purchasing and playing habits are supported. And if games are complete on disc on PlayStation or Xbox, I'll buy them there too. But I just think, if a disc drive is available on one of these consoles and not the other, I know what my purchase will be. I'll eventually maybe get both if I feel it's necessary, but at least for the first purchase, the one that I will be supporting is like a fan. It'll be whatever the disc drive is, wherever the disc drive is. People like Layden saying day one on Game Pass is bad annoys me because they never say the same about PS Plus. I take them seriously if they specified AAA day one is bad. So I think Layden is, I don't know if he has to name names. I think Layden's just broadly speaking against subscription services in gaming. So yeah, I would just throw out there that like, I think it applies to both. I get where you're coming from though, Claw, but I think it applies to both. Also, PS Plus doesn't really do day one as often. There are some games like, I think a Sea of Stars, and there's a couple others, but otherwise it's pretty infrequent. Machine XP. Yeah, I gave up on trying to get Colin to see other perspectives of some of his hot button takes on Xbox or PS strategies, but I love it because they just want to like fucking berate you. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of PlayStation fans who have told me like, I better not ever see you buy a PlayStation game again. I better not see you on Wolverine. It's like, fuck off, dude. Like, this whole like immediate like trying to seize ground because you dared to have a fucking spine and be like, fuck these guys. It's disgusting. So yeah, I do respect the people who are willing to admit they're wrong. Oh. My stream died? Did my stream die? Oh, it's back. Xbox shut me down. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Appreciate you hanging in here with me. I didn't even see we went offline. It's been like raining for 2 days straight, so this doesn't surprise me. Sony had heard enough of my heresy and said, we're shutting you down, bro. It died mid-rant. Well, you'll never know what I said, I guess. Ari Ammer said, after playing Halo Combat Evolved to Reach for the first time in the past few weeks, it is criminal how this franchise has been mishandled for the past decade. Don't get us started, bro. Halo Studios, man. How is, with all the layoff rumors happening, right? How do we not hear about Halo Studios getting fucking gutted? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Imagine if Colin used the same strategy Xbox used on Undead Labs, but on Dustin. Showcase him, gas him up a bit, and then ship off the easy allies. What are we talking about, bro? My God. Thank you guys for your support. All right, let's get our last bit of slop on going. Oh, I didn't have the Skyrim music rolling. Fuck, my bad. I guess that's what crashed the stream. I don't know. Halo layoffs coming next year. I bet 1,000 on it. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, true. There's still time. There's still time. Keep hoping. How will gaming evolve over the next 25 to 50 years? Digital shifts, AI, layoffs, global talent, and how will today's debates age? I guess I really just went all in on all those topics. So I would just say that I think, fuck. Okay, so it's impossible to say where we'll be at in 25 to 50 years. Like, will we still be wanting to print discs and whatnot, or cartridges? I hope technology gets smaller. I look at my handheld PCs and, like, I want those to get smaller. I feel like gaming could get more portable as a result, for sure. And I think that would be really great to see. AI, digital, layoffs, all that stuff. I hope it doesn't even become too automated that it's no longer an art form. That's my biggest concern, is the intersection between AI, like as in technology, and art, which is game development. It's a very thin line. And I could definitely see for a while technology overtaking. And that would be awful, because there are tons of people who out there champion, like, just give me game. Give me game. I just want to play a game. I just want to have fun. Like, I'm easy. What? Just make game. And I'm like, no. Like, let's be clear that part of the reason you love fun is because there are people who are very thoughtful about how they give you your fun. Doesn't mean we need to spend $500 million on a team of like 400 people in, fucking San Francisco to make that. But, I don't think AI is the path. So I do think when it comes to the next 25, 50 years, I do worry that tech will overtake creativity. That's my biggest concern. How this will all age, I don't know. I've had plenty of comments that have aged like fucking beautifully. I've had some comments that have aged like milk. I'm sure it'll be the same as it always is. If everyone goes all digital, my heart goes out to Limited Run Games. Bought a lot of games from them. Heard they were doing a Hellblade 2. Yeah, I don't know. Limited Run did a lot of reputational damage to themselves too. They certainly did not help the physical race in a lot of ways. But wishing them and all the boutique game publishers the best. What does fewer Game Pass deals mean for AA? I think it doesn't change the formula too much, if I'm honest with you. I think AA can still accomplish what AAA wants to, but for cheaper, and that's all they're there to do. That's why AA is a category, like a Expedition 33. Basically blurring that line. That's all they really exist to do. And they've existed to do for a while. Like, even the PS4 generation, games like Vampire were AA, but they didn't really, I think, appear as much. They had a little jank, but not so much that I was like, oh, this couldn't pass for like lower end AAA. So I think AA will continue on as is. I think they and indie will continue to thrive, especially AA, because the lines will blur for them. All right, let's hit this last bit of slop here. Got a fun, spicy one, literally, to round this out on here. We're gonna talk about Polygon. They're doing something that I think would be fun to talk about. We'll just say, I want AI to be used as a god in an MMO who changes stuff based on what it learns from the players, like flooding the world. If it's full of griefers, oh my god, that'd be kind of funny. I can't lie. That'd be kind of funny. Just something that responds to player behavior like that on a massive social level. Players would just disrupt the game constantly, but I think that'd be the fun in it. So, yeah. Can you imagine? Am I crashing again? I'm seeing a lot of oh no and uh-ohs. Okay, you know what we're going to do? Let me, I'll record this slop offline, because my internet's being a little fucky here, it seems like, and I don't want to, like, end up actually going offline here. So, I think what I'll do is I'll record the last slop offline, and we'll just start to round out here. I'm still kind of sick anyway, so I should probably take 5. It's 6. I actually could finish the day early for once. Whoa. Not crashing out, maybe? Oh, no. No, because of Polygon. Oh, your stream is fine. Oh, I thought you were talking about. Sorry, everyone just saying uh-oh and oh no. I was like, oh, I guess my stream crashed. Okay, let's go for it then. Sorry, guys. I thought everyone's like immediate, just like cut away from like to worry. I was like, oh, is this topic based? It didn't seem that way. My bad. Okay, let's do this then. Let's do this together. I apologize. I was like, okay, I'll just make this easy for everyone. Okay, let's record some Matty Slop. You're stuck with me. Everyone's saying you're stuck. You're stuck. All right, let's do this. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for what I think a lot of people would consider, oh man, let's try that again. Hang on. Maybe I should have done this offline. I got to blow my nose. Hold on. I need another tissue. I'll be right back. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go to break. Pray. Go to break. Thank you. Okay. Oh, fuck, bro. I don't know if I want to fucking stream on Friday. If I'm still gonna be blowing my nose like this. It's just like it's endless. It's bottomless. Okay. Oh, we got Rufus appearing. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? This time for real. Rufus was the captain again. Oh. Oh. Okay. I'm back. Let's do this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for what I think a lot of you would consider some real slop. Today we're talking about Polygon a little bit. They're doing something that I think a lot of the internet has taken exception with. It is called the Spicy Takes Week. They say it's no contrarian rants, no troll jobs, only genuine heat. Now, there's a couple of headlines that have grabbed people's attention and go completely against that subtitle. One is, 8 years later, it's time to admit Red Dead Redemption 2 is a terrible game. And the other is Baldur's Gate 3's most beloved feature is overrated and weakens the game. And this is in reference to the game's writing. And last but certainly not least is I won't mourn PlayStation discs, which is happening all in light of what's happening with physical games. Now, is this clickbait? Are there real takes here? Is this presented the best? I want to unpack that. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I am no stranger to a hot take. If you sit on any of our streams, you've heard me spout at least one hot take. Like, I have many of them. The thing with hot takes that needs to be balanced, I think, in today's internet is that hot takes are great. It's really interesting, for example, to hear from someone who is not a Rockstar fanboy how they feel about Red Dead Redemption 2. However, saying 8 years later, it's a terrible game. Okay, you got my click and you got my video and mission accomplished in that. Why do you think that? Well, I've read all these articles and I want to share that reading experience with you because, again, the problem is not only how the hot take is presented, which is everything. People love to hear what you could consider a more contrarian take. Like you don't align with the common belief around that product. That makes things interesting. Like, I know I love this thing. Why does someone not like it? What have they taken away from it? Is my life a lie? Right? I don't get that feeling when I read a headline, must I remind us for the third time here. 8 years later, it's time to admit Red Dead Redemption 2 is a terrible game. And I say this as someone who, by the way, is by no stretch of the imagination a Rockstar fanboy. Like, I can't emphasize to an extent how little I've cared about Rockstar games, broadly speaking, throughout my entire lifetime. They are great. Like, I love Red Dead 1, love Red Dead 2. I adore Bully. Bully's like my favorite Rockstar game. GTA, I've largely not cared about. That's because most of the series has gone unplayed for me. But I played San Andreas as a kid. Thought that was cool. Didn't change my life, though. I just went on to play more like Kingdom Hearts 2 or some shit. So, yeah, like there's your hot take, right? My point being is that I want to present that take so that you know I'm not even coming in as like, don't talk about Rockstar at all like that, especially in the year of GTA 6. So let's see what this take is, how it aligns. And then as we get deeper into all of this with Baldur's Gate 3 and PlayStation discs, I mean, that's what these takes are up for, right? To debate. So let's debate, shall we? I was, as the kids say, gassed up when I finally got my hands on Red Dead Redemption 2. At the time, I was writing for a now defunct video game website, and in celebration of one of our most anticipated games of all time launching, we were given the day off. Unfortunately, within a few hours of slogging through the snow, setting up camp at Horseshoe Overlook, and discovering Valentine, I was bored out of my skull. Listen, I'm not just hating to be contrarian for the sake of it. I wanted to love the game. The original Red Dead Redemption had me weeping during that unforgettable, devastating final scene. And GTA 5 is one of my all-time favorites too. So I was all set for Rockstar's next major outing to blow me away. Arguably, it did, but not in the way I was expecting. Okay, so it did blow him away, but it's also a terrible game. You're going to start to notice a little trend here. What I noticed with these articles, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't see anyone challenging anything in here. They're like, oh, that's your take, bro. And you're not really supporting it well. That's your take. And that's the other thing with hot takes that's happening nowadays, not just the Polygon, but like other places on YouTube. They're just not supported well. Like, there is a level of like whataboutism that'll always exist with any sort of hot take you have. You know, I think about, for example, my retrospective on Metal Gear Solid 3. Like when I played Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 in a row, my favorites go in that row. Like I love 1 the most, 2, and then 3. 3 is not my favorite like many others. And so you'll get a lot of, well, what about this? What about that? You didn't consider this. You didn't consider that. Not just accepting that certain things don't resonate with you as deeply as others. That's kind of part of the nature of it. We're not even going to be really debating that here. So they say, at the time, Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of the most detailed games I'd ever played. The world felt alive. The story was gripping, even though you just called it boring. The characters were entertaining, personable, and sometimes even relatable. And technically, it was a masterpiece. Taking hunting, for example, 178 different kinds of animals, each with different habitats, and behaviors. And many of them require bait to attract them while you lie in wait. The problem is that Rockstar leaning so far into realism, Red Dead Redemption 2 may be impressive, but it isn't fun. Slowly following the scent of a bear, setting a trap, then hiding in a bush for minutes on end isn't engaging gameplay. Another example is that looting is astoundingly detailed. The ability to search through every single drawer and the fact that the game doesn't just have an open inventory screen in the UI is commendable, but it takes so long. Various core mechanics of the game are nothing short of clunky too. Take riding a horse, for example. I'm not expecting the same level of precision I'd find when driving a car in GTA 5 because it's a live animal with legs instead of wheels after all. But I would expect the game's primary transport method to be relatively smooth, and while it's easy going around flat, open terrain, making sharp turns, riding around the narrow paths, or engaging in combat while on horseback is often frustrating. Okay, there's just like already so much. I'm not even a Red Dead super fan, bro. There's so much wrong here. Number one, you said Red Dead is, you said it's a terrible game, and then we got to admit it. You also say in here it's a masterpiece. Like it's over. That makes no sense. 2, one of the main movement mechanics you're complaining about literally has an auto movement feature. You set a waypoint on the map, you get going, you hold the A button, and as long as you're on a road, they'll take you there. You don't have to control anything. Secondly, most of the game is open terrains. You're not making sharp turns in Red Dead Redemption 2, almost ever. Combat is one of the easiest parts of the game. It all is auto-aiming. It snaps to aim. That's all it is. Again, if you were to ask me, it's arguably the weakest part of the game, but not because it's frustrating, because there's no depth. You just like click LT and it's like you snap right to your target and you shoot them and they're dead. Like there is no depth, I would say, on that level personally. The depth is found visually. Like you'll blow a chunk of someone's heads off and it's fucking crazy. And the thing that they're also missing in all this and why the hot take isn't well supported is because they're looking at one division of the game, such as hunting, and saying like, okay, well, this is like so drawn out and terrible, or looting in a Rockstar game. But what they don't consider is part of what brings people to the dance in a Rockstar game is that it's doing that plus the story, plus the horseback riding, plus a million other activities that are not accounted for here. So it sounds like you don't like hunting in Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's fine. And it sounds like you don't like holding the A button, and I guess that's fine. But either these problems you have are not well-founded, or they're a small division of an otherwise massive video game. And I'd love to hear this person's take on launch Crimson Desert, because a lot of what they're describing here on it being like, you know, really frustrating how it feels. I don't know if it actually feels that way now. I haven't played the game in a little bit. I'd be really curious how the person feels about that. But this is where they really undo their take on a more personal level. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. Being unable to keep my attention on the game during the slower moments is most likely a symptom of my ADHD. But in an era where so many people have shorter attention spans anyway due to short form content consumption and the sheer breadth of entertainment media available, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 falls on the wrong side of the line. Oh boy. I mean, I'm disturbed. Not that you have ADHD. You know, we can't help that. I'm not going to sit here and come for that. What I am going to come for, though, is the advocation for, due to short form content, we should really fall in line. It's like, no, your attention span and how ruptured it is, whether it be ADHD, which I'm more understanding of, or short form content, which you do to yourself because you're just dopamine hitting yourself endlessly, especially the latter, these companies should never conform to you. And never. I'm an old school traditionalist in that department. So pardon me for being an unk right now. But I do not believe at all that, well, look at like the content that they like swiping, Matty. Okay, I don't give a fuck. I want the audience that doesn't want swiping then. And Rockstar has the ability to command such massive attention that they can convert people back to how entertainment was truly consumed. So attention span or not, whether it be medical or swiping, no game developer should be told, hey, you fall on the wrong line of this. If I could fucking talk. You fall on the wrong side of the line on this and should probably with your next game, as they say here, with GTA 6 coming for the end of the year, I can only hope Rockstar dials back the realism a touch. Telling them to fall in line, it's just a bad take. This isn't a hot take. It's just a bad take. And it's such a, I mean, this comment puts it pretty well. It's a pretty defeatist argument. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how. This thing is that someone should have helped this writer out. I mean, like, hey, you're going to get challenged on this, this, and that. How are you supporting that? But it just felt like their coworkers did not care about this person. It was like, yeah, go ahead. Put it out there, dude. It's your take. It's all part of Spicy Takes Week, which is just another way to get a surge of clicks. Now, I don't really have a strong feeling on Red Dead Redemption 2 compared to, I think, many people online. Like, I know I love the game, but I wouldn't say I'm like this stout defender of it. But I am a stout defender of Baldur's Gate 3. So when you go after that, we're going to have a conversation. Baldur's Gate 3's most beloved feature is overrated and weakens the game. This is the next in a Spicy Take Week from Polygon. And this one admittedly is supported better because of this person's background in gaming, I feel. But as we get deeper into it, I think this argument unravels as well. But they initially have a good presentation of their argument, so let's read through it. There's a common opinion regarding 2023's Game of the Year winner, Baldur's Gate 3, that the storytelling and characters outshine the gameplay. While not necessarily shared by the majority of fans, this opinion still surprises me. I actually enjoy Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm not that impressed with the story and writing in Larian Studios' RPG. Some context for the angry mob that's about to draw the torches and pitchforks. Hello. I am an old school gamer. My references in terms of RPGs are the likes of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Planescape Torment, specifically Mass Effect 3 I thought was interesting when I was reading this, the Fable series, the first 10 Final Fantasy games, Chrono Trigger, etc. You get the gist. These are games that, while experimenting with player agency and letting the player's decisions affect the game, still make a story a central focus, even if sometimes it's divided into a handful of branches, which you already see part of the problem here. Like, this person has the right background to be talking about this, and right away, we're off track because I'll spoil it here. These games are stories. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that is about the story you write, and tabletop RPGs basically being supported in video game format. I think that's wildly missed here. To summarize, your input as a player matters, but not as much as the folks who created and wrote these games. These games had a story to tell you. Baldur's Gate 3, not so much. Larian's take on Dungeons & Dragon World has been praised for the freedom it gives players, which is done at least partly to compensate for the lack of an open world. The developers famously stated that the game had 17,000 endings, but in truth, the number is not representative as it accounts for every small variation. Based on my experience of the game, that's not something to boast about. How can you dilute your story with variations, branches, and alternatives before the story itself ceases to have meaning or impact? I would argue that Baldur's Gate 3 gets pretty close to achieving that. Here are some examples. I have previously written about how deciding to turn into a mind flayer towards the end of the game ends up being not being a narratively rewarding choice at all. Your heroic sacrifice is mostly overlooked by your party members, and even your romantic interest largely ignores the fact that you're now a tentacle brain-sucking monster. Even after the player character decides to take their own life, there's no real interaction worth remembering. Speaking of romance, this is one of Baldur's Gate 3's most touted aspects. The game promises the player will only be able to build a relationship with almost every NPC in the party. In my experience, while it's limited, I only finished the game twice, however, which it's called overrated, but you play the game twice. These are better defined as conquests rather than romances. You do have to do and say a thing or a series of things to please your potential partner, which includes playing through their personal quests, and once that's done, they're yours. You can then approach them and ask them for a kiss, and they will hit you with some pleasing lines occasionally, but that's it. I didn't end up learning more about the character through romance, nor did I witness particularly interesting moments of growth, which I'm just like, well, how? Like, you have this picture of Shadowheart here. She was the first example that comes to mind. Shadowheart has like really incredible growth throughout the entirety of the game. Karlach as well. At least those options. I'm just like, what? Really? Anyway, continuing on. This pleasing romance's companion system, I think this is the best part of the argument, to be clear, is based on an approval rating that was already established in the early BioWare games, such as Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and the Mass Effect series. However, the resulting romances felt way more significant in those games. The most egregious example is Viconia from Baldur's Gate 2. Now, I should preface this as I'm reading by saying that I have not played Baldur's Gate 2. It's something that I really want to undo because Locke, one of my closest friends, that's his favorite game of all time, and I hear about it all the time and how I would love it, and so I just need to get to it. So I apologize, I am behind on this one. And it's also from my goats at BioWare, right? When they were my goats. The Drow elf priestess of Shar also appears in Baldur's Gate 3, where she gets a full character assassination, but she was a romanceable companion in the second game, and boy, was she hard to please. I remember having a text file with all her lines of dialogue and the exact answers you had to give to proceed in the relationship. Viconia begins by being aggressive, trying to push you away. At that stage, you have to show strength, often by giving the opposite answer that you would think. If you're too nice to her, she will be disgusted. It makes sense because she grew up in a matriarchal society where strength is revered and males are scorned. Then you get to witness her slowly opening up and showing more of her vulnerable side until she reveals the details of her traumatic past. It's a painfully slow and difficult to navigate process, but incredibly rewarding at the end. And she records a 43-minute video of that here. Viconia's closest parallel in Baldur's Gate 3 is Lysel, though I don't think that a romance with the Githyanki warrior is equally rewarding. Outside of showing affection for protagonist Lysel, she does not really change during that relationship. She finds that her goddess was lying and manipulating her, sure, but that happens regardless. You can push her to rebel, but you don't need to be her partner to do so. By comparison, Viconia is already aware of Lolth's cruelty when you meet her. Your relationship is about helping her navigate and overcome that trauma. Again, I think this is like pretty well put. Like I'm being fair here. I think this is well put. When we get to where it unravels is where I think it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what Baldur's Gate 3 is trying to be. But I want to be fair to the writers and present their whole piece. Significantly, the successful conclusion of the Viconia romance in Baldur's Gate 2 is that she breaks up with you because she doesn't want to expose you to the ire of Lolth. You've won, but you don't get to keep the toy. Instead, you've made a person care so much about you that she will make the most difficult choice to protect you. Baldur's Gate 3, on the other hand, suffers from wish fulfillment disease. For example, the endings added in the later patches of the game show that you can follow Karlach to Avernus. Lysel, who also leaves you at the end of the final battle to lead the Githyanki rebellion, then shows up at the epilogue party to tell you that you'll be together once again after that small issue wrapped up. It's not just about romances, however. There are many paths and characters in the branching stories of Baldur's Gate 3 that feel underdeveloped or underwhelming. For example, Enver Gortash should be one of the main antagonists of the game, but he's a flat character who fails to inspire dread, compassion, or any sort of strong feelings. We don't know enough about him to care. While exploring the game, you can learn that his parents sold him into slavery to the devil Raphael, who I love Raphael. But this info is hidden in the easy to miss objects and dialogue that has no impact on the game whatsoever, which is, again, like what part of what makes the game special, I think, is that you can find these things later. It doesn't make Gortash a more compelling character. Think about Saren from Mass Effect, love Saren, Irenicus from Baldur's Gate 3, or Kefka from Final Fantasy VI. Compared to them, all the villains from Baldur's Gate 3 fall flat. And Raphael is charismatic for sure, but not that interesting. Maybe if the game didn't include several thousand endings, these key characters could have been more developed, and the whole story would have felt more than an excuse to adventure and level up your party. I'm not saying that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have its cool moments or sparks of brilliant dialogue. Many fans love the game for its cool story and characters, and they're not wrong. I would argue that Baldur's Gate 3 stood out because it came at a time when narrative-heavy CRPGs were not the norm anymore, and they still aren't.
However, my dissatisfaction ultimately boils down to the fact that the game's story is too diluted among its endless branches of dialogue and options. As the Matrix said, or Noam Chomsky, if you prefer, choice is an illusion. Too much of it will turn even the best of the story idea into a kaleidoscope, pretty to look at, but not truly memorable. So I think relatively well written, all things considered here, compared to what we just read. However, one thing that's not really addressed here is what Baldur's Gate 3 sets out to do. And that's emulate the tabletop experience. So anyone who's played D&D knows this a little bit, but like you have your DM sitting there. And what the DM basically tries to do, a good DM, is enable your creativity a bit. So it's like, can I roll an athletics check on this and like do X, Y, and Z? What about a dex check on this? Like, can I see behind this wall here? What's actually here? And watching that story grow over time because of your creativity as a player, and a good DM can respond to that, especially on the fly. Like they write their story, they have the plan for the game, for the mission, and then as things unfold, it's like, oh shit, maybe they didn't account for that. So a good DM can kind of pivot and make that part of your story work and build on top of that. That's what Baldur's Gate 3 set out to do. It set out to emulate the tabletop experience in a pretty beautiful way where you can be creative. You can build whatever character you want. You can play as the origin character, so you don't have to build your own character. You can tackle this any way you want, and the game will respond to you. And respond to it does. Like it is what makes it special. And I think the writing quality is very strong given that consideration. It's not about the story they're trying to tell you. It's about the story you get to tell others. And that is, again, what's missed here. What they said about games like Mass Effect, Chrono Trigger, all these other more RPGs that are frankly more to my taste. I don't need a million choices in RPGs. You know my favorite game of all time. It's Knights of the Old Republic. That really comes down to two choices at the end of the day. So I don't need a massive level of choice personally. But what made Baldur's Gate 3 my game of the year was that it did give me a lot of choices where my story at the water cooler or on Discord was way different from the story that you would share. And I think that is what is special about the game, is the bottomless level of discovery. Not every game has to be like that, but Baldur's Gate 3 accomplishes something that's so intimidating that when James Olin was approached about a Baldur's Gate 4, he said, I'm not going to do that because I can never follow it up. So what Baldur's Gate 3 accomplished was also just transformative in the same way that Red Dead Redemption 2 was. And the problem with these hot takes that I'm having is not that the take itself is really bad. Like if you want to argue about Red Dead Redemption 2 or Baldur's Gate 3, like these beloved games, fine, but they're not confronting the core of the game and what that tries to do. Because if you do that, your argument falls apart. And that is the problem with hot takes nowadays, is they are here to piss you off. I'm not looking at these angry. I'm looking at them kind of like this is mildly amusing. And so I think I got the point across. We could sit here and read everything about the PlayStation discs, but I guess if you want to dive in, have all means, have at it. But I do think really what this whole thing was about here on the disc front was just like cartridges are better than discs getting scratched. But it's about, again, the framing of it all. I want more in discs. As everything that's happening with physical copies, it looks like, man, I hate physical games. But yet the subtitle says physical games shouldn't die, but optical discs always suck for games. That's your title. That's your headline. But would that get more people in? And look, dude, I'm a YouTuber. We know clickbait. We know clickbait, right? So like, I'm not even trying to preach from like fucking up high. It's just like, if you want these takes to be heard and you want to build respect for your website, have the staff challenge each other some more. Try to get some more intelligent takes out of this that confront the actual core of the game. That's where things get interesting. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we've got going on here with Polygon and their hot takes. Some really questionable articles being written. Pretty hilarious. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about the nature of a hot take and what makes it interesting. And I'd love to hear from you on that. So fire away, chat. How are we feeling about what's going on with good old Polygon, our favorite? How are we feeling? Let me get this up on the drive. I know I missed a couple of super chats as well. I'm surprised it wasn't Liza P with how you yap about that game. It kind of is Uncharted Wolf. I think long term, I've said before that I think I would make Liza P. What's it called? My game of the year for 2023. You know, it's had that staying power for me. Anti-romance, Maddie. Ew, sorry. I think romance can be great. I just think a lot of games don't write it well. You have to respect the art of rage baiting. Yes, truly masterful here. Raphael singing his own theme while you're fighting him is goated. Yeah, like that's a perfect moment, dude. Like, fuck yeah. That's so much personality. So good. First time catching you live. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Glad you're here, dude. Thanks for supporting the stream. I appreciate you. Which happens first? Xbox sales drop so that PC launches start, or PC launches start so Xbox sales drop? I play both, and each side argues this nonstop. I think the former. That's kind of my read. It's a good question. Thank you, Claw. I don't know if you mentioned it, but Jason Schreier just said ES6 is 2 to 3 years away at least. Really? Where do you say it? Where am I man say this? It can't be true. Oh, fuck. Oh, man. Here it is. Reddit Gaming Leaks and Rumor. Hold on. Let me look. He's doing a live Q&A. Oh, it ended too. We can't even see the sourcing of it. Maybe he'll respond, but this is the sourcing of it right now. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, let me dip because I gotta handle the I can't pass the slot videos off to Emmett today. So he's got some interest. He's got an exciting life moment coming up here, so I gotta handle it myself. So I do have to bounce a little bit earlier, but honestly, I just want to go blow my nose for like the millionth time too. Anyway, guys, I do appreciate you being here. We'll be live again next Friday or this Friday, hopefully with no cold intact. Thank you guys so much for supporting the streams, for helping out here. I definitely appreciate it. So we'll be back on Friday with whatever the hell's going on in gaming. But thanks for helping me unpack all of this. Appreciate you. I don't know if I'll get the slot video live tonight because it's coming down to me, but we shall see. In the meantime, though, take good care of yourselves. We'll have a video out tomorrow about what's going on with Bethesda. And otherwise, love you all. Hugs and kisses.